My crib is your crib. Looking forward to seeing you here.
Brittany to Devon.
Duty calls.
Hello, my name is Jerome Fletcher, City Manager of the City of Northport. I'm at the Northport Aquatic Center. I'm on the job today. Let's go. Jesse. Good morning, sir.
Nice to see you.
All right, thanks for having me today.
Of course, we're going to go through our opening checklist for this morning to make sure that the facility is safe and operational.
All right, sounds good. Let's do it. Before anything else, the team walks the entire area to make sure everything is clean and in good shape.
Our next part of our task is to make sure that our body of water is one, clear. The water must remain clean. We must identify any possible materials that shouldn't be in the water.
Then it was time to check the surge tanks.
As you can see the glistening of the water down there.
Right.
If the water is too deep and you hear a rushing of water, that means that this needs to be filled before we can begin operations for this.
Okay. It's part science, part intuition. At the Relaxahatchee River, Jesse showed me the digital checklist system, the Hydro app.
As soon as I click yes on this checklist, that let's say the water is clear,
Right.
and I do not identify that the water is cloudy or any sense, that yes goes directly to my manager and lets them know that at this exact time, I checked that water to make sure it was safe and clear.
This technology being used at its best.
Oh yeah.
Good job.
Now our rotations, we have evolved to having our lifeguards into a more of a roving position. With the competition pool, we still maintain the chairs for the height eligibility. But here we have to have a minimum of 5 lifeguards just to run this body of water.
Wow.
And we actually have a lifeguard positioned in our catch pool over there to help our guests that are coming out of the slides at a Barracuda
Yes.
Tarpon Twister.
I've seen that person there. Then Jesse brought up something that most people might not think about, pool skimming.
Pool skimming is the sounds of the water being properly flowed. So with those drains, all the water has to constantly filter throughout our pool at least 3 to 4 times a day. So not only is the water continuously being pumped in,
Right.
continuously flowing out, being cleansed through our sand filters, then being pumped back into the pool. It's a very long process, but it makes sure that the water stays as clear as possible.
Then Jesse taught me about the zones.
It helps maintain that their body of water is theirs to protect anybody that's in their zone.
Sure.
So lifeguard Brandon right now is actually scanning red 1 zone. So red 1 zone is here, any part of this body of water
Right.
that reaches, let's say, all the way from those stairs to the bulkhead and to the side of the corner. This entire zone is his right now. To make sure that they are staying healthy and hydrated, we do have a 30-minute rotation here for all of our lifeguards, and lifeguards are not meant to bypass more than 1 hour of continuous lifeguarding. So after every hour, the lifeguards must take either a visual break or an actual break.
After Jesse's walkthrough, I met up with Matt, one of the pool technicians responsible for keeping the water clean and safe every single day. He started by showing me how they test the water across the park.
We got comp pool, lazy river, kids pool.
Each sample is dropped in a small disc and loaded into a device, and in just seconds, it gives a full readout on the pool's chemistry. And before this little machine was created, this was more of a manual model.
Yeah, we a lot of people will use tailored tests, so it involves like little different chemicals. You would fill up a container and drop them in like a certain amount, and then basically it'll calculate from there what your pH and chlorine is.
And this is the daily task?
Yeah, this is what we do at the start of every day.
Inside the control room, he fired up the valves that get the entire water park up and running.
When we have everything going, the water level will be back up, but since we're not running everything in the moment, it'll drop it down a couple inches.
Next, he showed me the daily checklist for the park.
Then we have our chemical data sheets. So basically just making sure like that our comp pool, lazy river, kids pool are all where they need to be, anywhere between 2 parts per million or 10 parts. And then pH is somewhere between 7.2 and 7.8 for a healthy pool.
There you go. Then came the backwashing and wasting process, flushing the filters to keep the water flowing freely or removing excess water from the system to keep the water levels balanced.
And then it'll start coming out in this pit. So this whole pit will fill in about 3 minutes.
Really, over there?
Yep.
Next, we changed out one of the strainer baskets, which helped catch large debris before it can reach the pumps.
I'll trade you that one. Thank you. Then new one goes in just like that. And we usually let those dry out. I'll clean them later this week.
Before joining the team in Northport, Matt worked as a lifeguard in Charlotte County under Trish Sturgis, our Assistant Director of Parks and Recreation.
So I've known Trish a very long time. So that definitely was one of the influences of wanting to come work at the Aquatic Center. Had me go out for an AFO course recently, which is Aquatic Facility Operator course. Basically anything and everything relating to a facility like water chemistry, safety, rules, this and that. So I went there, I just passed that class. So it's a little bit of knowledge under my belt. It was definitely useful.
Well, Matt, we're grateful for your time and your experience and all you put into your career here. And congratulations on your certification, and you do an amazing job here at Aquatic, sir. Thank you for joining me today at the Northport Aquatic Center. It's a great facility. I want to thank Director Sandy Funheller, Assistant Director Trish Sturgis. I have learned so much amazing things today. I would like to say that the technical expertise that goes to keep the water safe as well as the people safe is an amazing combination. See you on the next job. Thanks for being here.
Hey, City of Northport. My name's Sandra Boudreau. I am with AECOM, and I'm representing the City of Northport on this glorious Price Boulevard project. We are here on Price Boulevard at the Blue Ridge Waterway, in which we are building the as we talked in the past.
All good? Ready?
Good whack.
Good morning. Today is Monday, December 1st, 2025. It's 10 a.m. We are in the city chambers, and I call this city commission workshop meeting to order. Commissioners present are Commissioner Duvall, Commissioner Stokes, Vice Mayor Langdon, Mayor Emmerich, and Commissioner Petrov. There is a quorum present for this meeting. Also present are City Manager Fletcher, City Attorney Fruino, City Clerk Faust, Board Specialist Linder, Police Chief Garrison, and Fire Chief Titus. I'm going to call on Fire Chief Titus, since he raised his hand, to lead us in the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. City Clerk, public comment?
Debbie McDowell. The rebranding is pointless. Where's the actual data showing rebranding the city will attract businesses or residents? There isn't any. Nobody ever said, hey, I want to move to Northport or bring my business to Northport because they have a cool logo, a new brand strategy, or their color palette is a pretty shade of blue. It is preposterous to think outsiders give a rat patootie about rebranding the city's image. If you want to clean up the city's image, start with the maintenance of the things already in place. I sent each commissioner an email yesterday with pictures taken along Sumter Boulevard Trail. These pictures make the city look shabby. The pictures of the trail are part of the city's image, and the pictures give a poor image to visitors and citizens who use this trail every single day. Shouldn't the city be focusing on things that really matter instead of trying to change something that has zero benefit of the existing taxpayers? And that is all, Mayor.
Thank you. Moving on to 25-3029, presentation by the Economic Development Division providing a quarterly economic development update to the Commission. City Manager, this is your item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to invite Mr. Michael Mearman up as our Economic Development Manager to lead the conversation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good morning. Michael Mearman, Economic Development Division. It's been a couple months since I last had the opportunity to present to this group, and today we're going to give you some updates since we last gathered. You may or may not be aware, but some more good news in the public eye, and that is that well now, let me talk you through it. House Beautiful magazine rated Northport as a top 10 city for people in their 50s to come to, grow, and live. This is a fantastic accolade on the heels of the last one that we received, which was from Lending Tree, where we were named the #3 boom town in the nation. The accolades continue to roll in for the city, but I must caution everybody and make sure that everybody understands that these accolades are typically predicated on information that's trailing in nature. So they're gathering data, metrics, statistics that may be anywhere from 3 months to a year old, and then they develop these accolades and publish them, although we have great trends going on here in the city. So we do expect them to continue, but most of these accolades are coming based on historical trends in the more recent past. Citing some of the actual activity that's going on here in the city, and that is the business activity, business growth. We track and monitor new businesses here in the city on a monthly basis. We track that using our business tax receipt information. And for the period ending October, we had the following business activity as represented on the slide. We've had 34 new businesses in the month of October alone, split between residential and commercial interests. If I might get some technical assistance from our technical crew up here, I would appreciate it. And I apologize to you in advance. I suspect we've loaded the wrong presentation. Okay. Right here. Go right here. Thank you very much. So that economic development activity that occurs here in the city is in part based on business attraction and, of course, based part on retaining the business that we have. We've got just a short, brief video that I'd like to share with you that gives you a little bit of a sense of how we are working with existing businesses to maintain them here in the city.
The City of Northport is helping local entrepreneurs turn ideas into reality by connecting them with partners and resources designed to help small businesses start, grow, and succeed.
I go to all kinds of different things to try to set up those meetings with those people. We gather that information, and then we try to put programs together to help them.
At the heart of it all, keeping Northport a place where residents can live, work, and play.
We don't want the whole city to get on I-75 every morning when they could be here, working here, spending their money here. It's just quality of life at the end of the day.
To help make that vision a reality, the city partners with organizations that provide hands-on support for small businesses.
The Florida SBDC at USF supports local businesses in Northport and throughout Sarasota County with as much free consulting as they could ever want, from marketing services, business analysis, access to capital, government contracting. We provide all these entrepreneurs with as much consultation as they want to help their businesses grow and thrive.
SCORE, another city partner, offers free mentorship and guidance from experienced business professionals.
It's really designed for anyone that has any business, whether they're starting it from scratch, a service-based business, or even a product business.
Hosted by the 26 West Entrepreneurship Center at State College of Florida, Northport Next workshops cover everything from access to capital to business planning and marketing.
If you have a business and you want to take it to the next level, be around the experts who know it.
Through partnerships with SBDC, SCORE, and Northport Next, the City of Northport's Economic Development Division serves as a hub for small business resources, helping local entrepreneurs build stronger businesses and a stronger community. The city.
I was asked to make sure that we covered what we're doing with regard to developing our workforce here in the community. And so this slide gives you a quick glimpse, a quick overview of the fact that we are working with those bulleted items here on the screen, these organizations, to enhance workforce development here in Northport. State College of Florida has just been mentioned in that past short video where we've partnered with them to provide and help us with providing experts on subject matters that our business community needs, but also to help develop the community itself around those subjects. Suncoast Technical College has long been a partner here at the city. They continue to grow at their campus over off of Toledo Blade. In fact, their expansion project is continuing to develop. They're looking to put up another building on that campus to be somewhere in the $25 million range, which will increase classroom space and their ability to expand their programming. I have been in touch with them over the last number of months about expanding the type of programming they're going to be offering over there in that school when those new classes come online. The Imagine School, which we know is moving from their current location, staying here in the city, of course, they too have had discussions with us and our team about further developing advanced classes for their soon to graduate students, the juniors and seniors, so that they can advance into workforce development programs that suit the future needs of the community. Approximately 6 months ago, we began to have discussions with the Galen College of Nursing, and they're headquartered up in St. Pete. They have a campus facility in Sarasota, and we began to have discussions with them about potentially creating space down here in Northport that would give them both laboratory practical space and classroom space to expand their nursing programs right here in the community. We recently have done the same thing with Southern Technical College. They are just to the south of us, and while they don't have nursing specific offerings at this time, they are open to the idea of that growing trend given the proximity to us, but they have other skilled trade programs that they'd like us to work with them on in helping develop our workforce. And of course, we do our own work as well, not the least of which includes career fairs, the next one coming up in February of this year, followed by a healthcare specific one in March of this year. We continue to promote the community at all possible times. But one of the most convenient mechanisms for doing that is by using our digital assets. The digital assets in this particular case on this slide include our website, our newsletter, and our LinkedIn. All three of those are unique to the Economic Development Division and apart from the city's version of those digital assets. We work closely with the communications team to make sure that we dovetail our messaging and that it's consistent. You can see here that our digital asset web page, which is being displayed, the economic development page, branded us as grounded by community and built for business. We are making sure that we're moving through economic development channels in appropriate ways. This represents the boundaries of our community, and then in the pink shade, we have what we call our activity centers. These activity centers are well known to most all of you here in the room today, and I thought I'd just take you on a quick tour of the city and what's going on. If we move to the central western edge of the city where it's noted as AC1, in AC1, I want you to know that in addition to the hotel project that Welland Park has recently announced that's going on there, I too have a hotel development project working in that same general vicinity. I'm not able to discuss the specifics of that project, but I can tell you that it's an active, ongoing economic development project that's looking very bright for another hotel. As we move across and head back here to where we are located today in Activity Center 2, most all of you are familiar with the Veterans Administration project, which is ongoing. I'm hosting bi-weekly meetings with the developer for that project, and it's moving nicely along. But also in Activity Center 2, which you may not be aware of, we do have a new early learning center going up there as well. As we move north on Sumter to Activity Center 3, I'm just going to pause for a moment and let you know that Activity Center 3 and Activity Center 4, where we have our two main highway interchanges, I am proud to tell you that today, as of this exact moment, all 4 clover leafs for those two interchanges have economic development activity in place. Either projects that will result in real estate purchase, projects that involve plans that have already been submitted, or projects that are active within our planning and development services group. All four corners of both intersections are now spoken for. That's huge news for the city itself. Activity Center 5 continues to be a growth spot for the city. Most of us would recognize it today for the development activity, but I can tell you the small business activity that's along that corridor is extensive as well. We do track small business activity by zip code, and so we can say that with certainty there are a number of small businesses and residential businesses located in the Activity 5 corridor. I will tell you today that while things can change tomorrow, planned in Activity Center 5 right now is a big box retailer. And so everybody is speculating who that might be, but mum's the word. I don't know myself, but I know that there is a big box retailer that has a signed letter of intent for a development project in Activity Center 5. Activity Center 6, we often refer to it as the Wild West, not much out there. But I can tell you that 30% of the property, that's 30% of 1,500 acres out here in Activity Center 6, the Yorkshire Loop, many of us refer to it as that. 30% of that property right now is engaged. I'm having engaged conversations with development projects for Activity Center 6. And that is interesting because there are no utilities in Activity Center 6 at this time. And so it gives you a sense and a flavor for what's going on in terms of the development cycle here in the city, and the fact that there are development organizations that are willing to take a look at these type of greenfield properties. And then right below it on the south side of 75, Activity Center 10, not quite as remote as Activity Center 6. We do have some inhabitants who have residences there in that area, but there are a number of queries coming into my office with regularity about the potential for development in that area as well. In the spring, we will be hosting the first Northport Economic Development Summit, which is designed to bring to the community developers, real estate investment individuals, and the like, to discuss development activity here in our community. We plan to do that in the latter part of March of this year. Right now, we're looking at about 30 guests. And lastly, I wanted to share with everybody the fact that we participated with the Federal Reserve this year in a small business credit survey. That's a first for the city as well. The Federal Reserve Bank and the city partnered, and they did surveys of the small business community to understand the financial limitations, expectations, and needs of the small business community. That information was compiled over the last 3 months. We look to be getting a copy of that report from the Fed sometime in the early spring. Thank you.
All right. Commission, questions, statements? Commissioner LeBlanc?
Thank you, Mayor. I had two questions. One was about the workforce development. I'm wondering, is SMH, regarding the fact that they have a new hospital coming here, are they kind of integrated with any of the schools for, development of, say, nursing programs, radiation technicians, I just wondered if SMH is involved in that education process.
The answer is yes. SMH has a very active role with all of those nursing-styled programs and healthcare opportunities in the entire region, mostly out of necessity, because the demand for healthcare professionals is very strong. In fact, there are more openings and positions than there are people to fill them. And so, yes, SMH is looking at all the feeder avenues on a regular basis.
Okay, thank you. My second question, you mentioned Activity Center 6 and two numbers, 30% and 1,500 acres. Is Activity Center 6 a total of 1,500 acres? Or is the 30% 1,500 acres?
Thank you, sir. Sorry, I didn't make that clear. Activity Center 6 is more or less 1,500 acres by itself. And approximately 30% of the 1,500 is part of the active discussions I'm having with development projects.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple questions also. One of your slides talked about residential versus commercial businesses coming to the city. By residential, did you mean they're home-based or they're home services companies?
Thank you. Good question. They are home-based businesses. Not to be confused with what we have known over the past number of years since the pandemic with regard to the gig economy individuals. When we say home-based today, we have many substantial businesses here in the city that are just not gig economists. They have, insurance firms. They do medical coding. We've got I can tell you of a small manufacturing company that I know operates out of his home and does over $1 million a year in revenue.
Yeah, that it is to be expected, given that we don't have an inventory of available commercial space for a lot of these folks to go into. Do we have a date yet for a groundbreaking on the expansion of the Suncoast Technical College?
We do not.
It just seems like we've been talking about that for a very long time.
Their project was underfunded at the time it was initiated. They received some monies from the county about 4 or 5 months ago. They were waiting for as of a week ago, they were waiting to receive the architectural plans back so they would know how close their current budget is to what the cost escalations have been with all the delays. They're not quite sure. I spoke to the executive director there the week before last to get this information. He's hoping that they'll still be in that $25 million range, but it's possible that they will grow the campus, put up the structure, but not build out the second floor, leave it as a shell until they have the money to finish it.
Okay, thank you for that. The Galen School of Nursing, are they looking to establish a campus here?
Well, that was on my wish list that I gave them, yes, but they were very receptive. They described for us some of the growth pains they're having in Sarasota with their current location and their need for more than just classroom space if they were to come to Northport. They need practical space for laboratory and other types of training and development. They were encouraged about our invitation because they see the need in this end of the county. And so it wasn't that long ago that they were only on the other side of Tampa Bay in St. Pete. They made the plunge to Sarasota and now, at our urging, have had conversations about possibly doing something further south here by us.
You don't need to tell me where, but do you have a level of confidence that there is land for them to do that here with appropriate zoning and utilities, et cetera, et cetera?
So yes, I have confidence that there's land here, but their model is not a model where they would necessarily build. Their model and the model that they used in Sarasota is that they are tenants in a facility.
Pan American, just a thought. If I may, one more question. Do we have any idea what might be going into the Imagine Schools old property on Toledo Blade once they move out?
There have been many discussions and rumors. I don't have anything that I could tell you with confidence that it's going to happen there. They were trying to separate at one point their athletic fields and athletic facilities. They thought there may be some interest in that, but I have not heard specifically.
Okay, and one last one. The median household income on your slide, was that city or county?
I think I was citing statistics here that came from Lending Tree. Oh, no, the ones on our website. The ones on our website are our numbers.
Okay.
82,000 is an accurate number for Northport.
Wow, that's way up from just a
Yes,
handful of
our
years.
household income has exceeded the Sarasota household income. Our household income exceeds many of the household incomes in the region, as does our home value prices. Despite the market correction of about 3 or 4 months ago when we saw a 10% change in the housing market here in Northport, we still have a higher average household value. And Commissioner, just quickly, the 82,000 is a median household income.
Right, right.
Right? Household being the key word.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Stokes?
Yes, thanks for the presentation. We appreciate these updates. Vice Mayor asked the question that I had, sort of the difference in definitions between commercial and residential businesses. But what about brick and mortar, like versus in-home businesses? Do we track it? Like,
Yes, that is what this references. So residential is a short way of saying they operate out of their home, and commercial is saying they do not operate out of the home, brick and mortar.
so those numbers, okay, that's what I want to make sure. So that number, commercial, actually reflects brick and mortar. And
Yes.
And includes, of course, the Benderson as you know, he continues to fill that space, or no?
Well, it would include if a new business moved into one of the leased opportunities at that Benderson location, yes.
Do we know what percentage is filled yet? Because I know that front row is pretty empty still.
Yes, there is a substantial amount of square footage available over there on Toledo Blade at the Benderson area. I believe the number is something greater than 40 to 50% right now. Some of it is still being finalized in terms of putting in all the Class A facilities that are required there.
And the other question I had was, are we tracking, and it's probably with a lot of the in-home businesses not as easy to do, but tracking job growth? I mean, we're pretty good at gauging how many brick and mortar and how many residential businesses. Can we tell if our labor numbers are up?
Yes, we do track job growth. We track job growth in two ways. One, of course, is that we rely upon outside service providers who do a much better job than we would be able to do ourselves, number one. Typically getting information from government resources and other independent resources. So we do track job growth from that perspective, but we do track it ourselves as well. And a good example of that would be the tracking that we do in the area from Price Boulevard, approximately Price Boulevard north up through past I-75 along Toledo Blade. The city received a grant from the state a couple years ago, and we used those dollars to facilitate some utility infrastructure. In exchange, a quid pro quo to provide job growth. And so in that 2.5 mile radius of area that I just mentioned, we do track job growth as best we can because we are required on a quarterly basis to report that back to the state.
Are we on track with them?
We are on track, yes. On track, though, is something, I believe it's a 10-year growth cycle.
Yeah,
is
I
what the
think
grant
within
provides
10
for.
years, I think we
So
need
if you-
to come up with about almost 2,000 jobs.
Yeah, I don't know if it was quite that high. The number escapes me. In my mind, I was thinking it was more like 1,100, but I'll check on that statistic. But yes, there's a growth activity along that corridor that supports it, and we are tracking it.
And the only other question I have is, it's really more of a comment I've raised the issue with city manager in my one-on-one, but the ability, I mean, let's face it, as our growth explodes, and especially in the area of non-residential growth, the ability, the more and more pressure on two areas. One, job growth, be able to live, work, and play here in the city, and affordable housing. And, to the extent we know our opportunity to succeed as we expand Activity Center 6 and 10 are going to involve good collaboration and partnership with our development partners. At the same time, hopefully the equation of job growth and affordable housing gets played into those discussions, because we're going to need the support and the help of some of those partners in order to do this and make it work. The hospital's a good example. Only so many people are going to be able to switch out of some of the other locations around the county to come down and work out of Northport. But, people want to be able to live here and work here, and we're going to have to retool. So we're going to need all that support that, we're getting out of, STC, but we're also going to get, with some of these larger businesses coming in, they have a vested interest in seeing a labor force that will help their businesses. So to the extent they can help, it's another tool or stick or carrot or however you want to use it to help put together, that dynamic, because it's not enough just to have the land. We got the land, has no utilities on it. We got the labor force, but they're not properly retooled, and we got a lot of people, but even in our own city employment, we see people moving out of Northport sometimes because they can't afford to live here. So, some of these businesses might want to, help in the workforce housing area. So anyway, they're the only comments I have. I have more questions on AC 6 and 10, but that's another item on the workshop. So, Mayor?
All right. Commissioner Petro, I knew you were up next. I just want to give him a shot first.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple questions regarding utilities infrastructure. Do we have any formal agreement with Charlotte County to extend any utilities to activities Center 6?
So that question is best posed to our utility group, but I will tell you that my knowledge of the subject at this point is limited, but I am not aware of a formal agreement in place.
Okay. And as far as water, might be a utility question too, but as far as you referenced 30% of the areas engaging in some type of development there. Primarily, it depends on utilities availability. How do we reconcile those things that they are engaging with economic development part without knowing about utilities? Where do we stand?
Great question. So I believe there's a presentation to follow here this morning yet to talk more about utility infrastructure planning. My economic development activity, though, is a separate component, and I am working with economic development practices that attract businesses to our area, who they themselves, possibly with their own private investments, would support the type of development that they need. And so not all economic development is predicated on the type of utility infrastructure that you might think, or the utility usage levels. And so depending upon the economic development project itself, there are different levels of utility usage. And so some of these developers are taking it upon themselves to take a look at and say, what can we do independently?
On the question on Chamberlain Apartments, What is the status of that project and how many units?
I don't know that particular project, sir. Timber Lane? Chamberlain. I don't know the details of that project.
The developer who was fined for the clearing of the land.
Right, I'm unfamiliar with the details. Possibly somebody from our planning group could address that more specifically.
Good morning, Elena Ray, Director of Development Services. The Chamberlain Apartments, you're talking, I think you're talking about the ones on the north side of Price, or north of Price. That has gone back to the applicant for revisions, and we are anticipating a revised plan to be submitted prior to, I want to say, December 16th. Don't have the number off the top of my head. They've looked at a couple different numbers, but I want to say it was in the neighborhood of Deputy Director Barnes is looking it up now, so I'm waiting for a message. But, I just don't know the number off the top of my head. We have received a request for zoning forms to be signed for a property south of Price on Chamberlain for affordable housing. We have not seen any plans. We've not received any formal plans or a pre-application request, but that would be a separate project. At this point, we've only received request for forms to be signed stating that the proper zoning is in place for that property so that they can apply for funding to the state.
And I guess that brings me to the next question. Maybe the information can be shared about the Toledo Blade 320 project. Where do we stand on that?
Currently, we don't have any plans in right now. I mean, they've submitted plans, but apparently their project that they were working with, that developer fell through for them, so they're now looking for a new user for their industrial property.
So it will not be multifamily, 15 units per acre?
They do still have multifamily allowed, and I think they are still planning to do that, but they haven't submitted building permits at this point.
And my last question would be, are there any exciting news of any stores that are coming in, like Detweiler's or any other?
Well, of course, there's exciting news, Commissioner. I am unfortunately not at liberty to talk about all these developers' specific business, mostly because we do have non-disclosure agreements in place until they're ready to make announcements. There are a lot of exciting developments, and this might be a good opportunity for me to share with everybody. You know, as an economic developer here, a big piece of my role is to attract people to come to this city, to learn about our city, to meet with you folks, to meet with our city manager's office, to understand how we function, as opposed to our planning and development group who works more in the intricacies and the nuances related to land development code. I wanted to share with everybody a good example of that is the property across the street from Lowe's. There's a parcel there that folks have wondered about for a long time. It's treed. It's owned by the Salvation Army. It is not owned by the city. And that's a good example of something where I am pushing people to go talk to the Salvation Army if they're interested in a 15-acre plus or minus parcel. There's a potential. It's not listed for sale, but it's a good example of how in economic development we push people toward this matchmaking component and say, here's a plot of land you might want to consider that's ideally suited for your project. So we do that on a routine basis. In fact, the question came up a few minutes ago about affordable housing. Same thing. There are a number of folks that would like to do affordable housing projects here in the community. The question is where? The question is, what is the city's participation?
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner? Jason Yarborough, Deputy City Manager. You asked a question about, we don't have anything formal with Charlotte County.
in regards to utilities, but utility staff has met with Charlotte County utility staff. The county manager of Charlotte County is aware, and we've had some positive reception to that. Water is easy. There's a large water line, and that kind of running the border of our city limits. Sewer, again, is the Achilles heel, even for Charlotte County. The sewer that's available is residential in nature and not robust, large size to handle much commercial. So, but there has been conversations, and it was positive conversations, but there's no formal agreement in place.
If I may, I have the number for you. The Chamberlain Apartments, it's now known as Avella, so that's the new name of it, but it's 240 units. And as Michael said, many of the projects that economic development is working on, we do have NDAs, we do have retailers that we know about. As he mentioned, the one in Activity Center 5, we know there's a big box, we don't know who it is. But if we did, it would probably be under an NDA and we couldn't tell you. However, once those plans are submitted through a pre-application format, we will bring that information to you. So we're going to be doing not only these presentations that are very high level, but as we go forward, our next quarterly meeting will join it with a current development component to the presentation, so that we will be able to talk to you about specific projects that we have in-house that we're working on, and it's public information. So it'll be a good format for us to cover both of those bases.
I have one more question. Are there any collaboration with the Sarasota County for economic development in Activity Center 6 or 10?
Yes. When you say Sarasota County, you're talking about the Sarasota County Economic Development Group? Yes. I speak to the EDC in Sarasota on a regular basis, multiple times a week, in fact. Later today, I have my regularly scheduled monthly meeting with them where we have updates and comments, but we are in regular contact. I share as much as I can with them as well so that they can continue to support the activity here in Northport.
And in what ways do they support or are willing to support, and to what extent, either financially or in any other way do they do that?
I am not aware of any financial methods that they use to support us, other than that their team, right, which is a cost to the county, does engage with us on a regular basis. They are going to go to a trade show with me in the early spring. We're going to be doing a trade show in Miami, which is an aerospace parts show, and they plan to attend that show with us. Through them, I was able to receive an invitation with Florida Select to attend another show and be a participant in the trade booth in Orlando, also in the spring. We regularly collaborate on potential grant opportunities, and they were instrumental in bringing to us the FP&L and Florida Commerce Tour, which took place 2 months ago. And they came here to visit the community so that FP&L and Florida Commerce could learn more about how they could support us.
Do they own any land in Activity 6, is it in Activity Center 6 or 10, the Sarasota County? Do they own any land there?
Does the county own any land?
Yeah.
I am not aware if they do or don't, sir. There are a large number of parcels in Activity 6 and 10. You know, they're broken up in mostly quarter-acre lots. There have been some folks over the last few years who have aggregated properties there. But of course, there's been no development on them. There are parcels out there that are for sale in the 10-acre, 30-acre range. Not many of them, but there are a few. But there are, I'm going to guess right now and say there's probably a couple hundred parcels or more.
With the recent ULDC that took effect last year, individual lots that are owned by individual people or companies, whatever, if they're not allowed to build on those lots, what options do they have?
Good question. It's not that they're not allowed to build, it's what they are allowed to build, right? And so if you're
Besides
talking
the-
about single-family
besides single-family.
home, that's no longer a permitted use in that area, right? So their option would be to sell that property. They could trade or swap that property maybe with somebody who has a property on the other side of town that's more desirable in terms of the intended use. They could sell it. Those are their options. They could hold on to it as investment.
I can add some to that. We've seen a lot of marketing for commercial purposes. A lot of people are actively engaging realtors to market to either developers or commercial real estate investors. So we're seeing a lot of investor turnover out there from home building investors, residential investors, and individuals to more commercial investor type. We're seeing some, as Mr. Merriman said, we're seeing some aggregation of lots. We're seeing some activity where property owners are interested in trading lots that they have there for lots that are in the single-family areas in the city. But those lots, I think what we're going to continue to see is that turnover to commercial investors who are willing to wait out the utility issue that we're going to talk about more today. But we are seeing sort of some of that conversion. I've gone on to the real estate sites to look, and a lot of those lots have transitioned from marketing to single family, marketing over to commercial. So we're seeing some of that switch.
Does the city facilitate an exchange or promoting that, exchange or trade? How does the city help people that are individually?
We do. We have connections with commercial investors who may be interested in purchasing lots. We've put a lot of owners in touch with those commercial investors. We also, as you're aware, the city owns a lot of single-family lots. We have some investors who own a lot of lots in Activity Center 10, and they're interested in building single-family. So they've approached the city asking if we would be interested in a lot swap, so that the city ends up owning lots in Activity Center 10 rather than lots where single family is allowed. So we are looking at that. We will likely be bringing the commission some options as far as whether the commission would like to trade some lots. We're working with one investor now who's looking at potentially trading the city for about 40 lots that they own in Activity Center 10, a lot of them right along the main thoroughfares. So that would give the city some leverage with developers to be able to potentially facilitate some economic development deals.
We keep hearing about one developer who is buying a lot of lots and plans to vacate and do some development. Do we know who he is or the company, or is it confidential?
So that is in Activity Center 6. That's the approximately 30% of Activity Center 6 that Mr. Meerman mentioned in his presentation that he is actively working on. The owner is not confidential. It's public record. Mr. Meerman can probably share that information as to who the owner is. He has worked for a long time to aggregate those lots and will eventually be looking to vacate streets so that they can develop a cohesive development rather than the pattern that's been built out there with the street system. So that is somebody that we can share with you. As far as what they're looking at doing, that's where we get into an NDA issue. But the ownership is public record.
And how many lots or how many acres would you say? Is it 30%? I cannot imagine it's 30%. It's
It's about 400 acres.
400 acres. And my last question, really last.
Said that 5 times now.
One question evolves to another question. The list of properties that the city owns, how do we market those, and how do we sell? Or we cannot sell without the approval of the commission board.
So we had brought the list to the commission, and we got some clarification and some direction from the commission to go back and look at a legal opinion for public use. So we did request that legal opinion. We have received it. We are going back through the list to re-scrub based on the direction that we received from the commission. And we will be bringing that list back to the commission to see what the commission wants to do with the list. There are a lot of properties on there that we likely could consider either selling or trading for properties in AC6 or AC10 if that's something, a direction that the commission wanted to go to. So, but we will be bringing that list back to the commission for discussion and consideration.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Duvall.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is just a question that comes up in my mind every now and then, and it came up today again. Vacation rentals, short-term vacation rentals, VRBOs in the city. Do we get any fees, tax benefits from those? Do we track how many people are renting out their homes, either, like a weekend or, a short term, or, some people are here in the winter and maybe in the summer, they rent it out, for a kind of a longer term. But do we as a city have a program where we receive some monetary benefit from that?
We do not. The state preempted us from regulating short-term rentals several years ago. And so we can't prohibit it, we can't regulate it. We receive taxes, ad valorem and non-ad valorem, as any other house does. Those properties do not get a homestead exemption, so they are taxed more than an occupied homeowner would be taxed who lives next door. But short answer is no. We are by and large preempted by the state from any type of regulation of those properties unless we had an ordinance in effect before that preemption took place. And even that exception, they have sort of whittled away at that. I worked in a jurisdiction, Longboat Key, who did have a very solid short-term rental program in effect prior to that preemption, and was one of just a handful of jurisdictions that were actually listed in the statute as being able to continue regulating it. But any other jurisdiction that did not have those ordinances in place prior to that were completely preempted.
That's not the answer I wanted, but thank you.
All right. Anything else? City Clerk, we got any public comment?
There is none.
All right, thank you. The presentation was awesome. Moving on to item B, 25-3073, presentation regarding brand strategy and workshopping recommended mission, vision and values by the Communications Division. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to turn over to Mr. Jason Barlow, Communications Manager, for the presentation.
All right, good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Jason Bartolone. I'm the Communications Manager. Today, our team would like to give you an update on our City Identity Refresh project. Specifically, we're going to be talking about our brand strategy. And first, I'd like to recap quickly for you how we got here. So those of you who were on the commission back in March of 2024 will remember that we presented to you during a workshop at that time a little bit about the city's brand, how it was developed originally back in 2008 to 2010 by an outside consultant. And we talked about how it was time for an update to that brand. And it was decided that the best way that we could accomplish that was through kind of in a much more cost-effective way, was through a combination of our in-house communications team, which has grown since that time, and an outside consultant. So some time passed since then. We had some turnover both on staff as well as on the commission. We had some other priorities and other projects that we were working on. And then this past June, we restarted the conversation with you all. We had one-on-one briefings with the current commissioners back in June to bring you up to speed on where that project was. And then in July, we put out requests for information for a consultant to help us with one piece of that project. And we brought them on board later in the summer. We also did a tremendous amount of community outreach. We did a community survey to get input about our current brand and how people saw Northport and what they liked, what they didn't like about our brand and how we compared to our competitors. In addition to that, we did focus groups with various segments of the population to get their input, which is now guiding this project along. Earlier this fall, we took all that feedback and we gathered it into an insight report, which we again presented to each of you in one-on-one briefings back in October. And then that brings us to the current phase, which is development of the brand strategy. And so I'm going to turn it over to Katia Sutherland, our Marketing and Engagement Manager. Katia has been the lead on this project. She's done some great work so far, along with the consultant. She'll be telling you more about what a brand strategy is, why it's important, how it fits perfectly with the conversation we just had about our economic development efforts. And then we'd like to hear from you at the end of this today for some input from you and how this project is going to move forward. So from here, I'm going to turn it over to Katia.
Jason. Katia Sutherland, Marketing and Engagement Manager for Communications Division. So I want to start today with just confirming this is not going to be about logos. This is not going to be about imagery. This is the part of the brand strategy that defines who we are, what we stand for as a city, and how we communicate that to the world. And that's not us as a city organization, that's as a community and the people and the residents within our community. The brand strategy is really important. It will enable us to then move on to that nice bit that we're all looking forward to, the imagery and the logos and the color palettes that were mentioned earlier. And it's really important because it does some key things. Referenced earlier in public comment, I think this is some of the data that sits behind why a brand is important. It gives us as an organization, but also us as a city, clarity and alignment. So for us as a city to all be talking with the same voice, to all be speaking in the same language, and to all understand what matters to our community so that we can engage with them, we can focus on the things that are important to them from the data that we collected from, as Jason mentioned, the surveys and focus groups that we've been doing. That in itself helps to build trust and transparency, and we'll come on to that because that was one of the important things that was fed back to us by our residents and citizens, communities, business leaders, and visitors that we spoke to during this process. And that is that they want more trust and transparency. Only by us talking all with the same voice and speaking about the issues that are pertinent to our community can we increase that trust, transparency, and therefore credibility. That helps us to engage with the people that we serve, to the people that put you in the seats that you sit in today. It helps to foster civic pride. It helps to foster participation with our government and with our organization. But more than just that, from a community standpoint, it supports our economic development team and our development services group, because it helps to support the economic impact that we can have by attracting investment, attracting new residents, driving sustainable growth, bringing in a workforce that can be utilized across our economic development focus. And also it gives us that longevity. We all know that there is a plan for this city that spans far past any of us being in this building. And we want the brand to sustain with it rather than having to go back and redo this again in the future. So during, as we mentioned, we have been out, we have been speaking to the community, we have been speaking to residents, we have been speaking to businesses, nonprofit organizations, people who work, live, and play in our city. And the community voice that came back to us focused around sort of 5 key things. The first was really the pride that our community and our business leaders have in our natural beauty. You come to this city, you look around, every day you get to be part of beautiful spaces, waterways, whether it's the natural landscape or it's what has been created by our colleagues in Parks and Recreation. It's that desire for connection and belonging. Words that came out predominantly in all of the work that we did were welcoming, neighborly, community, and that's what's being used to describe our city by the people that live and work in it. There was also feedback around the balance of growth and preservation. People want, in section 4, they want that future-focused optimism. They want services, they want the innovation, they want to be able to shop locally, send their kids to local schools, have educational opportunities. But they also want us to make sure we're focused on that pride in our natural beauty. So how do we balance the preservation of what makes Northport, Northport with the future that we have as a city? And again, as mentioned previously, they want that unified identity. They want that trust in not just their community, but in their city, in their government, in their neighbours. So where did all of that come from? Well, that came from 23,000 data points, and that's what we used our consultant to support us with. 23,000 questions were answered across the survey and across the focus groups. That's a lot of data, that's a lot of opinions, differing opinions, and what we needed to do was to find the thread that linked all of those things together. That one thing that we as a city government, but also more importantly, our residents and our community can agree on makes Northport, Northport. 85% cited natural beauty as a defining attribute, as mentioned. The family-oriented piece already discussed, making sure that growth is sustainable and balanced. And most residents want us to tell that unified, together, trustworthy story. So our brand strategy that I'm going to take you through today builds directly on that feedback. It emphasizes that welcoming nature we have, which is important to our residents. The serenity that is provided by the natural resources and beauty that we have around us, and the sustainability that we need to create from an economic development standpoint. So, what does a unified brand achieve? Well, it achieves that consistent voice, a story for our residents and our businesses, greater trust and transparency, and opportunities for economic development. And it's done in this pyramid of marketing. So it starts with our value proposition. Our value proposition tells the story and defines the core benefit that we offer as a city. Why choose us? Why come and live here? Why come and work here? Why come and visit here? Our brand promise, which sits underneath that, is how we turn that value into a commitment as a city government to those people. Our brand pillars are the things that support that. Picture it as a house. If we have our value proposition as the roof and we have our brand promise as the walls, you need the structure inside it that keeps it solid. Underneath that are the foundations, which are our vision, our mission, and our values. Our mission is what we are doing now, who we are as a city now. Our vision is where we want to go, and our values are what we will make sure we do while we're on that journey. And that's the piece, and highlighted in blue, that I want us to think about today and would love your feedback on, as this was something that was developed by the Commission back when you guys were talking about our strategic pillars. So I'm going to chat you through where we came to from our value proposition. This is the value proposition that was developed from the back of all of that information that was I chatted you through 6-7 weeks ago from the Insights report, but everything I've just mentioned there about what feedback we had from our community. And I'm going to read it to you twice and show you how we have developed it. So Northport is a forward-looking community that offers residents, businesses, and visitors an authentic community, natural beauty, and a thriving future, continually working to improve the city with a sustainable vision for the future. So how does that link to the things that were important to our community? Northport is a forward-looking community. There's our future-focused optimism that offers residents, businesses, and visitors an authentic community. There's that desire for connection and belonging. Natural beauty, there's our natural beauty, and a thriving future. Taking that natural beauty and the thriving future is that balance of growth and preservation. Continually working to improve the city is our unified trust and identity. And then we bring it full circle by saying with a sustainable vision for the future, which brings us back to that future-focused optimism. The brand promise underneath that we promise to provide for our citizens and our communities is this. For residents, businesses, and visitors, Northport is committed to providing an opportunity to thrive in a flourishing community with an authentic character, natural beauty, and a sustainable future. If those are our roof and our walls, these are the pillars that keep it standing. Taking those 5 things and bucketing them into the 3 pillars. Authentic character. There is something that makes Northport distinctly Northport. We have such motivated, vocal, engaged citizenry. Whether we always agree with everything that is being said, they are out there and they're vocal because they love this community. It is distinctly Northport. We cannot ignore the fact that we are in one of the most beautiful places in the country. The natural beauty makes Northport also what Northport is because nature is part of our everyday and our thriving future. And as Mr. Mirman spoke about earlier, we work very closely with them. Our thriving future is grounded by our community, but built for our businesses. And that is wording that is used by both our team and their team, and we work very closely together. So that brings us onto the foundations of our building. We've got the roof, we've got the walls, we've got the pillars. Now let's talk about our foundations. We've got a mission, we have a vision, we have values. Our suggestions are that we augment them and change them with the information that has been provided to us by the community. So our current mission is to provide exceptional service to the community for the continuous enrichment of quality of life through transparency, engagement, and respect. Our suggested recommended change is to say, to serve our community with excellence, fostering engagement, and empowering the success of Northport's residents, businesses, and visitors. Our current vision is to be an innovative, friendly, engaging, and sustainable community where residents, businesses, and visitors can flourish. Our suggested changes would be to be an innovative, sustainable, and thriving community while preserving the authentic character of Northport for residents, businesses, and visitors. Our current values are accountability, integrity, customer service, teamwork, and empowerment. We suggest changing these and adding to them, and I shall explain on the next slide why. Just to caveat, we're going to come back to this slide. This is what we're going to be workshopping, but I want to just chat you through a little bit more thinking. So from our current values, we suggest moving to service, enrichment, opportunity, preservation, reliability, accountability, and resiliency. And don't forget, our mission is where we are now. Our vision is where we want to get to, and our values are the values we will hold dear whilst we're doing that. The reason we have changed our values and the reason we have enlarged them to 7 is so that they can align heavily with the strategic pillars. So that when we are doing things and departments are doing things, we all understand the value that sits with us as a department or a division. So from a safe community perspective, when my colleagues in fire and police and utilities who look after the safety of our community are thinking about how to do things, top of mind is service. When we are working with our parks and recreation team and thinking about quality of life, they will be thinking about the enrichment of our community. When the economic development and development services team are working, they will be thinking about how to bring opportunity to the city for our businesses and for our community. When our colleagues also in development services and other teams are thinking about environmental resiliency and sustainability, they will be thinking about preservation. When our colleagues in our emergency management team are thinking about disaster response and recovery management and working with public works and utilities on all of the things that we need to think about, when the dreaded winds come, they will be thinking about resiliency. When you are working, when our city managers are working, when our department directors are working and are thinking about how to be good governors of this city, they will be thinking about accountability. And when we're thinking about the infrastructure and the facilities we need to provide, we will be thinking about reliability. All of those things bring us on to things like tone of voice. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail. This will become part of the brand guidelines that will be sent out to all departments. Once we have our value proposition, our brand promise, our pillars, our vision, our mission, and our values agreed, we will be able to make sure that we have the right tone of voice, that no matter who is speaking to our community, we are all doing it with one voice. We will make sure that there are certain words that we use that mean something to our community. These were words that were spoken to by our community and pulled together out of that 23,000 questions answered data. And we will make sure that we have an overarching brand story that tells our story, so every time we are out with our community, we know who we are, we know what our history was, and we know where we're going as a community. So with that, the workshop purpose is to go back to the slide really on mission, vision, and values, to make sure that we are comfortable with that, that you are comfortable with that, that you think that that speaks to the communities that you represent from your districts. We will then be able to take your review, your input, and refine what we have, which will allow us to move forward confidently to the next phase, which is more of the design, the wording, and creating our brand guidelines. Before we move to workshopping, or unless you would like to move straight to workshopping, we can go on to any questions. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Great presentation.
Thank you, Matt.
Commissioners, questions, feedback? Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a comment first and echo some points that Caitlin made. And that is that our city, Northport, has gone through major changes in the past 5 years. Not all of those changes have been well received by folks who live here, but both inside and outside of our city, there's really a lack of awareness of where Northport is today. And that can inhibit our development and our growth. It can inhibit what companies want to come here. It can inhibit the willingness of outside organizations to partner with us. So I see this work as a major strategic initiative that impacts our city's progress in multiple ways. Pride of place among our residents is a critical component of that. And I'll share just a personal experience that I've had. I'll be here this summer, 12 years. When I used to share with people inside and outside of the city where I lived, people would kind of look at me with a very quizzical expression. What are you doing in Northport? I don't hear that anymore. And not that it doesn't happen, but I really see one of the positive outcomes of this work is that no one who lives here feels negatively about living here. And if I never hear the term redheaded stepchild again, it'll be way too soon. I mean, we really have got to drop that. We're way beyond that. And I see this work as being a critical component of making that happen. How we are viewed both within and outside of our community also has major impact on our economic development initiatives. This is not about logos and colors. This is about how we view ourselves and how we project that view within and outside of our city's boundaries. It also has significant impact on our current businesses. You know, if people outside of our city continue to view us as the one stoplight Northport, then they're not going to come here to do business. We have great restaurants, we have great businesses, and my personal opinion is our residents, too many of them, the default is to go outside the city to eat or shop or whatever, when we have perfectly wonderful opportunities for people to do that here within our city limits. So this is a huge deal. It's a big deal, and it's important work. So enough of the soapbox. Excellent presentation, excellent work. I have one comment. In our values, what I didn't see is sustainability. And for me, that is really, really important. Whether it's an additional value or if we kind of expand one of the proposed values. But one of the things that motivated me to run for office is I just didn't see our financial path as a city as being sustainable. I really thought, just sort of based on how we were doing things, that we were on the path to financial disaster in 5 or 10 years. So for me, sustainability has a huge financial, economic development meaning. It also impacts our development code and practices. We need to ensure that as the city develops, that we are protecting the environment and that the way we're going about that development is sustainable. It really talks to me about that balance between conservation or environmental concerns and development. So for me, I'd really love to see sustainability somehow in there because I think it's really important.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Stokes.
Yes. Could you refresh us and the public? What's the total investment budgetarily that the city has allocated to this rebranding?
So in comparison to the last time this was done, we spent in 2008 to 2010, the project cost roughly $100,000. With the changes to the current team that Jason has put in, the centralization of our team, we're doing the majority of that work in-house. Therefore, our investment has only needed to be $25,000.
That makes sense for me. Money well spent. I'm not going to spend time reiterating what Vice Mayor already said because I am a big proponent of this. I think it's really important that people as she said, Northport's really changed who and what we are, and the world at large. The rest of this country needs to understand that. That is what helps attract not only residents but businesses to our city. And so, for that kind of investment, I think it's long overdue. And this was a great presentation in my book. The one question I did have is where you talk about mission, vision, and values, and we want to talk about that, traditionally has been part of our conversations in our strategic planning days, which I guess are coming up in January. I think it's January. And yet you've got existing and proposed changes. Are you envisioning us like talking them through, munching them over, and then following them up at those strategic planning days, or are we preempting that process and attempting to give you some clear direction on, whether or not these proposed changes are what we want to run with? Because they are a change, and typically they tie into overall strategic planning.
Yep. So some direction would be wonderful. We are planning to attend your strategic workshop and bring with us some of the imagery that we will be working on, as well as some of the taglines. So we could do it any number of ways. You could feedback between now and then, or we could use some of the time at the strategic workshop to do both of those pieces.
Are those publicly noticed strategic planning, the ones that anybody in the community can come and listen to or watch back if they want, right?
The January 6th?
Good, just want to make sure.
Yeah.
That's all I have, thank you.
And what type of direction were you looking for? I think that's a great plan, is to come back on January 6th and discuss it and everything and go forward pillar by pillar and see what your ideas are, and that gives you a little bit more time to come up with some creative ideas for that meeting.
That would be wonderful.
Okay, and if the vice mayor didn't bring up the redheaded stepchild, it might go away, but she seems to do that all the time. So, but it was an excellent presentation, and I look forward to January 6th, and we'll work together on that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any public comment?
There is none.
All right. We've been here almost an hour and a half. Anybody want a break before we get into the big discussion about the nonprofits? 10 minutes? What time is it? Yeah, 10-minute break. Moving on to general business, item A, 25-3026. Discussion and possible direction regarding the future needs of the Northport Senior Center Incorporated, Awaken Church, Northport Art Center, and Kiwanis Club. City Manager, this is your item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am going to turn it over to Chuck Speak, our Public Works Director. I don't believe there's a presentation, but there's a lot of information to go through. So thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Chuck Speak, Public Works Director. So Commission had requested that we bring back options for the various nonprofits. We worked with Social Services, Parks, and Department of Public Works and the City Manager's Office to do that. So I'm going to read through this staff summary and go through the options. I also have the attachment A, which has the cost breakdowns of those on the screen, so we can bring that up when we get to that portion as we go through the options, so you can see what the options actually would cost and the breakdown of those costs and how we got those. Okay? Yep. So the recommended action is provide direction on the needs of the Northport Senior Center, Awaken Church, Northport Art Center, and Kiwanis Club, to include the selection of a preferred option for addressing facility and space needs, with additional information being brought back to Commission for approval at a later date. So our intent is to get direction today, bring back, go out, follow that direction forward, bring that back to Commission for any final decisions at a normal Commission meeting. Okay, so option one is to demolish the existing community services facility and construct the new 10,000 square foot facility to support Senior Center, Awaken Church, and potentially other nonprofit activities. The estimated cost for option one is $6.88 million. The pros for option one: it provides a new, slightly larger, code-compliant facility designed for senior and other community programs. It addresses all current structural, safety, and accessibility deficiencies of the community services facility. It's a long-term solution that enhances public service delivery. It's a reduced cost of operations and maintenance with a new energy-efficient facility. The cons for this: it's a high-cost option and project timeline of 3.5 years. For contracts, design, permitting, and construction, it requires the tenants to find alternate facilities while construction takes place. And funds committed to this project could otherwise be redirected to support capital improvement projects, which may serve a larger portion of city residents. So option two is to demolish the existing community services facility and lease or purchase temporary facilities of similar size as occupied within the existing facility. For the Senior Center, it's approximately 4,800 square feet, and Awaken Church is approximately 1,850 square feet to support services. Estimated leasing cost for option two is $892,601 for the first year, including setup. Annual lease is approximately $219,000 in years 2 through 5. Estimated purchase cost for the option two is $1.4 million, including setup. The pros to this option: it allows continued programming at a lower cost than new construction. It allows flexibility in location and facility selection. It has a lower short-term capital outlay compared to new construction. Cons: ongoing lease costs with no asset ownership, increase in cost of operations and maintenance due to less durable and energy inefficient modular construction. It may not fully meet space, operational, or accessibility needs. Coordination required for setup, utilities, and accessibility compliance. City code only allows temporary facilities to be in place for 5 years. Additional cost of either relocating or disposing of city-owned assets at the end of the 5 years. If the existing site is utilized as temporary location, parking will be reduced by at least 27 spaces. Each occupant may be required to reevaluate their operations to comply with the minimum accessibility and parking requirements for these public serving facilities. And funds committed to this project could otherwise be redirected to support CIPs, which may serve a larger portion of city residents. Option three is to demolish the existing community services facility and purchase or lease a temporary facility and construct a new 10,000 square foot facility to support Senior Center, Awaken Church, and potentially other nonprofit activities. Estimated for the new construction and leasing temporary facilities option is $8.1 million. Estimated cost for new construction and purchasing temporary facilities option is $8.3 million. The pros to this option: provides operational continuity during a rebuild. Purchased facility could be reused and repurposed for future city needs. Greater control over modifications and maintenance. The cons: it's the highest cost option and project timeline of 3.5 years for contracts, design, permitting, and construction. Increase in cost of operations and maintenance due to less durable and inefficient energy construction of temporary facilities. Additional cost of either relocation or disposal of city-owned assets at the end of the project. Requires suitable site and permitting for temporary setup. Short-term facility may not meet all program needs. It may not fully meet space, operational, or accessibility needs. Coordination required for setup, utilities, and accessibility compliance. And if the existing site is utilized as before, it will reduce your parking by 27 spaces. So they may have to change their operations to meet the requirements for these public serving facilities. And the funds committed to this project could otherwise be redirected to support CIPs, which may serve a larger portion of city residents. Option 4, demolish the existing community services facility and relocate the senior center to the George Mullen Activity Center. Purchase or lease a modestly sized modular for senior center administration. Estimated cost for the leasing option for 5 years, a total cost over the 5 years is $627,000. Estimated cost for the purchase option is $642,000, including removal at the end of the 5 years. Please see attached memorandum for additional details related to this option, and that's that attachment 2 that I discussed that we can go through here in a minute. The pros for this: it utilizes existing city facilities, minimizing new construction. It consolidates community services in one central location. It's a reduced cost compared to new build. It allows City Commission to evaluate the highest and best use of the former community services facility site to best serve residents. The cons: Awaken Church would not be accommodated in this option at the GMAC. Limited space could restrict activities and programming. Potential scheduling conflicts at the GMAC certain times of the year. Administrative trailer adds setup and maintenance costs. Reduced parking availability at the GMAC due to the modular placement and additional activity. Modular facility will call for Americans with Disabilities Act compliance through a ramp, which may not be conducive to senior center clientele. Funds committed to this project could otherwise be redirected to support CIPs, which may serve a larger portion of the city residents. You have ongoing lease costs with no asset ownership. Increase in cost of operations and maintenance due to less durable and energy inefficient modular construction of temporary facilities. Coordination required for setup, utilities, and accessibility compliance. City code only allows temporary facilities to be in place for 5 years. An additional cost of either relocation or disposal of city-owned assets at the end of the 5 years. So option 5 is to rehabilitate the current community education center to address known deficiencies and make necessary repairs to current building systems which are at end of their useful life. Estimated cost for option 5 is $2.9 million. The pros: provide some repairs of the facility for continued services at the current level, addresses current known deficiencies and all safety and accessibility deficiencies, and utilizes its existing city-owned facility. The cons: repairs are limited to the scope identified in attachment A and currently identified as deficient. Some structural repairs will be required for roof replacement, however. It's not possible to bring all existing structural components up to current wind code without full replacement of those structural components, including footers. Untouched portions of the facility will remain non-compliant until such time as they require repairs or replacement. Costs of repairs to identify deficiencies is estimated at $2.95 million to $3.8 million, or $343 per square foot to $452 per square foot of that space. Once repairs are underway, any unforeseen conditions or out-of-code construction must be repaired, replaced as part of this project. The costs for unforeseen conditions cannot be known at this time and are not accounted for in the estimate provided of repairs. Estimated cost of new construction of a community center averages $532 per square foot. The building is not large enough to fully support senior center and Awakened Church operations efficiently, and it will require relocation of services while repairs are underway. Option 6 is to provide space and facility for Kiwanis operations, provide storage building and use of Scout House, or purchase a lease a modular to be placed at Dallas White Park. Please see attachment A. Again, we'll discuss attachment A here in just a minute, and attached memorandum for additional details on option 6. So the pros to option 6, it'll provide immediate operational continuity. It utilizes existing city-owned site and facilities, flexible solution depending on cost and availability. The cons, the storage building requires installation, utilities, and maintenance, limited amenities versus a permanent purpose-built structure. It requires coordination for shared use facilities. The storage building cannot be open to the public as it will not meet ADA requirements. And the funds committed to this project could otherwise be redirected to support CIPs, which may serve a larger portion of the city's residents. And our last option is the city to collaborate with the Northport Arts Center as part of the Memorandum of Understanding review to explore a shared use facility to house multiple nonprofits. So the potential for cost sharing is a pro for this one, interagency partnerships and a larger potential donor base. It could result in a multifunctional community-centered facility, and it encourages efficient use of city and community resources. The cons, it's dependent on Arts Center project timeline and funding. It does not meet immediate facility needs, and it requires development of shared use agreements and design alignment. So I think we remember how we got here. I'm not going to read through the background information. We presented to you back in October that the building that currently is being used by Awaken and the Senior Center is at end of life. We were looking for direction on that lease, as well as planning the demolition of that building after the termination of the lease when that time comes. So here's our options for, I know it's a lot to think about. There was a lot dug into this. If we could bring the screen up, please, we can kind of look at where these cost estimates come from. So, and there was one on attachment A, on your copies of attachment A, there was one mistake where we had erroneously left in Awakened Church when we referenced moving to the Mullen Center. That was not an option. It's only the Senior Center we were looking to put into the Mullen Center if that option was chosen, okay? So the Awaken in that option 4 would have to, they would have to come up with an alternate location. But if you look at option 1, we come up with that 6.88 million, and that one is to demolish the existing community services facility and construct a new facility. Okay, and that's where we came up with those numbers. The important number to look at, the new construction number right now is about $532 per square foot. To rehabilitate this facility, I think we were somewhere between 350 and 450 per square foot. So it's not that big of a difference between new construction and trying to rehab the building. And rehabbing that building is not going to bring it up to code. It's going to address the immediate needs. It's not going to address all those structural needs that we know that we have. Is there any of those numbers that you would like to go through with more detail, or are there any questions that you have, rather than me continuing to read through this long list of options?
No, I think as we discuss each option, if you want to put up like option 1, if we're discussing that, we can look at that. Then option 2, same thing.
Absolutely.
I'll open this up for questions from the commissioners, but I'm going to start real quick is, where's this funding coming from? Like the 6.88 million? If we were to choose option 1, where's that money coming from?
Correct, and that would be my question to you.
And I understand. And basically, it falls on the burden of the taxpayer, is what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just wanted to get that out there when we're discussing numbers on where it's coming from. And another question that I had too, we had talked about getting into these land lease agreements because they're a very crucial part of the grant process. Have you discussed that? Have you came up with a number on what we would lease land for? Have we discussed any possible areas of land that we could lease going forward?
Well, there's several locations that have been discussed over at Dallas White Park for these locations, and as we're working now and preparing to bring back the MOU for the Art Center, that's not really a land lease, it's an agreement for them to use the land. Anytime that we would lease the land, we would go through our real estate consultant to get us a number. If it's a nonprofit and the commission decides that we're going to make an agreement to have that nonprofit here and it benefits the city, that can be done differently than if we were leasing something that's not for this, for city use or the better of the city's residents. That would have a different cost to that. But all of that would come before commission.
Sure.
And it would be based on the market. Honestly, if it was one that you didn't feel was held a city purpose.
I see you're in the queue, City Manager. I'll let you go before I ask another question, so go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to talk briefly about where the funding is coming from situation. As we look at what we are preparing to bring back to you as a commission in early 2026, we are looking at how do we go out and obtain the funding for other facilities and projects that we know that we need. We believe that these that are being discussed today should be in that conversation. Now, when we put those in this conversation, that means that ultimately taxpayer dollars, as you mentioned earlier, are going to have to be found within the current budget that we have. So any money that we potentially can borrow from needs to be done without any sort of tax increase or any sort of additional obligation or pressure from the public. What that process looks like is as we bring to you in early 2026, the unfunded CIP projects, they will be ranked, and then you will be able to decide how much or how few you want to go through a court-validated process to see if we can borrow for those projects. Now, before you get to the court validation portion of the project, we will need to engage the citizens to see, get their feedback on the projects of what we're doing. But these buildings are ones that we have had for years and ones that we were maintaining, and now that they're no longer there, putting them in this bucket of borrowing and not having a tax increase put with that should go a long way with us making sure that we can take care of buildings that are within the city under our umbrella.
Right, and as we've grown throughout time, we've put those other buildings to the side and repurposed them to our nonprofits, but we don't have that space anymore. We're not moving out of a building and leaving it vacant because we need all the space for city workers and employees and everything. And so this is a huge project that we need to discuss and go through. And I'll let Vice Mayor go.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. That was a lot. And I won't pretend that I've sort of internalized all of the pros and cons of each approach. But I do have a couple of questions. And that is option I think it's, where is it? I'm sorry. Okay, option 4, which was demolish the current building and relocate Senior Center and Awaken Church to the Mullen Center. Did I hear you say that?
Just the Senior Center.
Yeah.
Yes,
So why would the Awaken Food Pantry not be able to relocate there? What are the issues?
So I don't think that I think there's too much conflicting activity there for that operation.
On a Saturday?
The Awaken is running, 5 days a week? Yeah, so they're working 5 days a week.
Right, for their walk-in. Have we discussed it with Awaken? Okay.
So Awaken doesn't want to be at the Mullen. They would prefer to be where they are
Does
now.
not want to be at the Mullen.
Right.
Okay.
Good morning, Janet Carrillo, Social Services Manager for the record. No, I've spoken with Awaken. They would like to stay at their location because they have people that walk to the pantry, specifically from like Willow Creek and surrounding areas. So that would be difficult. If we move it here, then people would not be able to travel.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing else at this time.
Anybody else up here have any questions? We're still gonna look for direction too. Go ahead, City Manager, you're wanting to sign language me down there, but that's all right.
I was just gonna say, our goal today is to keep giving you updated information as the conversations keep taking place and making sure that you know that we're still working with the partners that you instructed us to work with. And also how it combines into the big picture of if you decide as a board that you would like to borrow at some point with the ability to pay it back within ourselves, that this is a part of that conversation. So that way you can have time to think about it, because like it was said, it is a lot of information, there's a lot of options. None of them are easy, so to speak, but I think that as we keep sort of talking about this and making sure we all have the same information, we can come to a conclusion in early 26 of what you want to do.
Oh, they woke up, now they want to talk too. Thank you. Commissioner Petro.
Thank you, Mayor. Question regarding the attachment A on all these options. It says community services facility options cost estimates. And when I look at option 4, it does not include, so some of the options do not include option 6, I'm sorry. Option 6, it does not include the senior center or does not include anything else. Do we look at all of the options as one option to choose from of the list, or we can choose many options, several options, or none of them?
Sure, we would take direction however you wanted to give it. So some of these include some of the other nonprofits, which are the Kiwanis, which is kind of an offset of what our initial conversation was with the Senior Center and Awaken Church. So there's an option that addresses that if we wanted to move forward with that. There's also options, as we said, the Mullen option does not address Awaken. So you could choose the Mullen option for Senior Center and choose to keep Awaken in portables at the current facility, because that seems to work best for them, is that location. So this is I couldn't have 37 options. This was a lot to kind of put together, so I wanted to just kind of, we got together to put these in here. We can make whatever work out of these options. This just kind of gives you a breakdown of what those costs might look like. Because either way, if we're going to put a modular unit at the current location, you have that cost in here of what that unit's going to cost. Whether it's for both, we have to put 2 units in there to keep both facilities running, or we move one to the Mullen and we keep Awaken there. We can break that down out of these options.
My question about the leases, if we choose to build a new facility, and I heard the phrase that fair market value lease, are we going to be charging non-for-profits fair market value lease? How are they going to afford, or what are the options for them?
Right, so that, any lease will come back to the commission. We have the facilities lease policy, which gives the commission the opportunity at a reduced rate for nonprofits. And I think that one's getting very close to coming back. It's, I believe, through legal, and we're preparing to bring that back to you. But in that policy, that does give you the option to reduce rates for nonprofits.
And construction cost, $532 per square foot. That seems a bit high since it's a shell construction and with the bathrooms and limited kitchen. It's mostly open space, if you will. The building, which is 10,000 square feet facility. How did we arrive at that? I mean, to me, it seems a bit higher.
So if I'm not mistaken, that is, if we keep it on that site, you have to go vertical. So it would be a 2-story building.
Is that's the reason why? Are we planning to do, if we do that, we're planning to go vertical?
If you want to do it on that site, because of the space we have and the parking and everything there. I can't take any more parking away because it's shared with all those other buildings. You would have to go vertical to capture
So
the
this
needs.
price reflects the vertical construction.
Correct.
Okay. Do we accommodate for the vertical as far as the non-for-profits? Will they be okay with that? Will we have to have elevators then?
Of
All
course.
ADA, all of it?
Yes, you would have to have elevators. And this would provide them with the square footage that they requested. You asked us to get with them and see not what they have, but what they need. And that's what we had asked them. So that 10,000 square feet would provide that want from the two nonprofits that would be there.
And if we go closer to the road side, there seemed to be a space there. Can we keep it one level?
There, on that site, just at first blush, there is not room to go 10,000 square feet in that current location without going vertical.
What is the current square footage of that existing building right now?
It's about 8,000 square feet. Yeah, just over 8,000 square feet.
So we're talking about the difference between 8,000 and 10,000 square feet.
Right, you're adding another 2,000 square feet at the request of the nonprofits.
Okay. Okay, that's it for now.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few more questions, and then I'll make some comments. On option 5, rehabbing the current community education center, the second option, the multi-million-dollar option, is that bringing the facility up to current code from a FEMA point of view? Well, let me ask it differently. What are the pros and cons of the differences between 5A, which is sort of just minimally improving what's there, versus alterations required to meet Florida building codes? Is that 5B FEMA compliance or something different?
So good morning, Kim Humphrey, Public Works. So this is a combination of the deferred maintenance that's existing right now and the alterations that would be required if we were to bring the roof up to code, if we were to do the plumbing. All of those things have to be brought into compliance. I wouldn't say that is meeting all of Florida building code, but it would be meeting for those repairs that we're doing. There could still be some items in the building that are untouched as part of this scope that would remain as they are.
On option 4, if, regardless of how we do it, we provide space for the senior center, why would they need a modular for administration if we're giving them space? I was very confused by that. Wouldn't they get space for administration?
Good morning, Sandy Funheller, Parks and Recreation Director. There is not space available for offices for their administration. The building is currently being utilized not only by city staff offices, but by programming. So if you are going to allocate...
This is at the Mullins Center.
At the Mullins Center. So if you're going to allocate space there, you would be displacing existing city services or discontinuing them completely in order to provide that space. So we can provide programming space after talking with the senior center representatives in the different, the multipurpose room and the gymnasium. And those spaces we can schedule around what we have going on, and they were flexible with their scheduling. But to have a dedicated, currently they have 3 dedicated office spaces. We don't have that available.
Okay. I'll sort of share with you, I still want to hear what my other fellow commissioners have to say, but I'm sort of tempted. Well, let me just make a comment first, and that is, I believe that it's the activity of our nonprofit organizations that really contribute in a major way to the authenticity of our community and that sense of engagement with the community. So I see our nonprofits as a critical component of the quality of life here at Northport for a lot of our residents. Having said that, I just balk at spending millions of taxpayer dollars to provide facilities for them. I think it's no surprise to anyone that I'm a huge economic development person. I still wouldn't budget or approve a budget to buy land for economic development purposes. So to spend that kind of money for nonprofits, it's a gulpable moment for me. So in reviewing all of this information, just a few things pop out, and then I'll yield the floor because I want to hear what the rest of us have to say. The Arts Center and Kiwanis have activities in process, particularly Kiwanis is in the end stages of getting a grant. I'm inclined to make that land available out by the Scout House. So whatever that sort of chunk in all of this was, let's sort of continue to move down that path. It's not a whole lot of dollars. It would maintain Kiwanis. The Arts Center, we are in conversations about the current footprint out at Dallas White. Let's continue those conversations. And so potentially those two nonprofits would be taken care of. I'm inclined to move the senior center to the Mullen Center and request that Parks and Rec take over the administration of that. So then not requiring office space, they would just need space for programming and the city would manage it, et cetera, et cetera. And minimally patch up the current community center. And I'd want to have more conversations about that in terms of how much we'd really have to invest there. I'm not one to throw good money after bad, but I'd like to talk more about what it would take to maintain the Awaken Food Pantry at that current location and give them the entire space. In conversations I've had with leadership, it's become clear to me that they really need more space for the storage of food and blah, 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 blah. So just as sort of first blush, that's sort of how I'm seeing a path forward, but I'd be interested in how others are looking at this. So I yield.
Commissioner Stokes.
Yeah. So it's an interesting one, lots of options here. First, I have to say that any plan that does not include Awaken is something I would have a hard time supporting. That's first off. I do think that the city has an obligation to provide what resources it legally can do within reason, within limits, within cost, because I think these nonprofits are a critical part of our city. And, if money weren't an option, it'd be an easy decision. I'm tempted to look at the least expensive option here, which is do a patch job on what we've got. Granted, it won't bring everything up to code, but it will stabilize things for a period of years. It'll allow, hopefully, both nonprofits to continue to operate right where they are. The dynamics of relocating the food pantry, I mean, the traffic alone is a nightmare on Pan American. I have thought long and hard, where else could you do this? And I just don't know where. I can't even envision it in and around City Hall Green. I can't think of a location that would make sense, not to mention relocating it a great distance from where it is a problem. So if we deal with that location, I hate the thought of not, I'd love a master facility that affords a good number of nonprofits equal opportunity to participate in the utilization of that space. For that reason, I like the idea of having one facility that does all, but I don't think we're there yet. I really think that every time something comes across this dais regarding a capital improvement investment, we're like, okay, well, we're going to be going through our CIP projects and we're going to be figuring out where to spend the money and where the money's coming from. And, there isn't nearly enough money to cover any of these projects. So, my thought is to create a plan for options 1, 2, 3. I just don't see it as realistic because I think it'll get destroyed. Whatever plans and effort go into moving down that path is going to get blown out of the water when we get into budget cycle. None of us know what next year is going to bring. There's so many questionable items. We have, we could just do nothing, absolutely nothing, for a year, 2 years, till the building falls down. Probably not a good idea, but, doing something short-term at $1 million here or there to restore what's there, or at least stabilize it while we figure out how we could do this. I really think the city owes all our nonprofits a facility at somewhat of an affordable rate that allows them to operate and support our citizens. I really, really do. And the idea of piecemealing them all over the place, I don't think is a solution here. This is a bigger issue. It's going to involve an investment at some point in time. The question is where and when and how much and how we're going to pay for it. So I don't think we're there yet. I think we got so many CIP projects that every other month it's like, oh, this one's a priority, this one's a priority. We got to figure out what the hell our real priorities are. And quite frankly, we got a lot of them. And we don't have anywhere near the money to pay for any of them. So, with that, the only option I'm leaning towards is just do a patch job on what we got so that it's safe and let them operate. And while we try to figure out how we skin this cat, because it's anyway, that's all I have to say on this. And thank you very much, because you really laid out all the options really, really well. I'm not a big proponent of messing around at the Scout House. I think whatever we do, Kiwanis ought to have the space available in a facility along with all the others. I'm not so comfortable with building more stuff on Dallas White Park that's going to be temporary and this and that. I think that whole area needs a rethink anyway and a new master plan. So I'm not really all that desirous to go down that route now and throw up some buildings that are just going to get knocked down again and disabled, in storms and everything else. I think it's a waste of the taxpayers' money at this point. Let's do this right. Let's do this right. Let's think it through. And if it involves an investment, then we got to figure out how to pay for it if it's a high enough priority.
I yield, Mayor.
Thank you.
Commissioner Duval. Unless you had something to say, Mr. Speaks.
No, I was just saying thank you.
This is a lot. And there's so many different options, so many different things, so many different feelings on things. Not the mayor, the commissioner that just spoke said that, using the Scout House for the Kiwanis, that's not a good option. I looked at that as, I was like, oh, $45,000, we can get the Kiwanis doing what they do, and they do a lot. Even if it's a temporary situation. I look at use of the Mullins Center. I like Commissioner Langdon's idea of Parks and Recs taking over the administration so that the senior center could fit in that facility. Also, there's been mention about our capital improvement projects. I believe that we've had some talks recently that we're going to be reprioritizing those. That's important. The feasibility, of just rehabbing the senior center, that's a dicey situation. We'd be spending money. But again, Awaken Church, wants to stay near where they are. Where else could they be? I just happened to notice that if you go further north, you have the Garden of the Five Senses, and across the street, there's an open plot of land there that I haven't checked it out yet, but I have some belief that maybe the city owns that property. And maybe that could be, put some double wides in there, it's got room, it's in that area. There are so many combinations that are possible here. The Art Center, and before I forget, I believe Commissioner Langdon mentioned something about the Kiwanis and a grant. I thought I read somewhere where they didn't get a grant they were looking for. Maybe they're going to be reapplying. I don't know.
I thought they were facing a deadline. They were very close, so would need an update on that, I think.
And they're meeting with Kiwanis, and we'll get that update.
Yeah, so, other than, temporarily for the Kiwanis, use of the Scout House, $45,000, that would keep them going, and it's a minimum amount. And I hate kicking cans down the road, but when you've got so many different options, so many different needs, and what we've talked about here so far is 4 nonprofits. I'm sure there are others in the city that, could use some help somewhere along the line and may have some asks. So, thanks for all your hard work. It's, and again, it is a lot.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That's it for me for now.
Commissioner Petro?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to my surprise, I do agree with the Vice Mayor, and many thanks, and Commissioner Stokes. We do owe to the to our non-for-profits, especially Awaken, what they do, and I do believe we have to help them in the way we can, legally allowed. And I do think we need to carefully examine option 5 and stick to that plan. Let me pull this up. So when we look at option 5, the immediate needs that can be addressed, we can do those. I think I'm leaning towards that. And as far as bringing the building to the current Florida Building Code of 2023, I do want to ask, do we have to? I mean, nobody's asking us to update to the current building code, because unless we do a large amount of investment and rehabilitation of that building. But as far as I see, the first paragraph of the list, those would not trigger us to do the alternation to bring the building to meet the current Florida Building Code. Am I correct? Or, I mean, because to bring it up to the Florida Building Code, we have to do a lot, and I don't think we have to do it. From my visual examination, and I did schedule a tour through that building, outside and inside, and it was very informative, and I could see it myself. I took a couple pictures. I do think we can patch it and continue to use it and plan ahead what we can do, but at least for a year or 2 or 3, or even longer, we can do that. And that brings me to a different discussion that we have Art Center, that they kind of staked that land to be theirs only. But I think we have to adapt and invest into researching how can we multi-use our facilities. And that brings to the senior center as well. As far as Art Center, I don't know how much land precisely we have there, but I would not want to isolate one non-for-profit over the other one and give them much more incentives and total use of building completely over the other one, because all of them matter to the citizens of this city. And as a board member, I have to be unbiased, if you will, to all of them and be willing to look at on a same playing field all across. So I do think we have to have a more discussion about Art Center building and Awaken. Definitely, I don't recommend interrupting their services because they do a lot. They basically literally feed the city, if you will. So at this point, I'm not willing to go, and I'm just saying out loud that I'm not supporting to demolish the building as of right now, because that will, we have much more immediate priorities in the city than just that building to demolish and erect a new building, which again leads us into more financial strain and putting that amount on taxpayers. But I think we can do what we can as far as the patching up this building and go on from there. And meanwhile, we should plan and have like maybe discussion of what we can do as far as where or what non-for-profit to put where, and talk to those non-for-profits directly if they're willing. So I'm glad that somebody talked to the Awaken and they're not willing to be at the Morgan Center. Am I correct? Mullen Center, I'm sorry. So at least we have the discussion going behind the scenes, and we should continue to do that. But at this moment, I think option 5 looks much more appealing to me, and I hear some consensus, at least from a couple commissioners.
Done?
Thank you.
Yeah, when you were discussing, I'm just gonna use the Kiwanis rehab, putting them over there in the Scout House. I know that there was discussions that you put on the list here that it was gonna cost the city $15,000 for this, $15,000 for that. In the discussions and negotiations, the Kiwanis said they would have paid for that using grants. So, I mean, I think that negotiation's still up in the air because it wouldn't cost the city anything if the Kiwanis received grants to put that storage container by the Scout House. So my point is with the other nonprofits as well, Kiwanis is trying to have skin in the game. They're trying to get grants to be able to go ahead and go forward, so it's not a burden on the taxpayers. All they want is permission or access. And that should be something across the board with other nonprofits as well. You know, I mean, here's just an off-the-wall idea. Let's say you brought up that you can move the senior center out to the Mullen Center, but Awaken is still over at the place where they're at on Pan American. What if you signed an agreement with Awaken that they did the repairs throughout time going forward at that senior center building? I mean, there's a lot of different things that can be thought of to accomplish that goal, is what I'm getting at. You know, to where everything is not on the city. It's a joint partnership with either grants, fundraisers, whatever the case may be. Same with the Art Center, you know, but at least a couple of them do have a place to go with our very limited space that we have in the city right now. So, I mean, I think we still need to discuss more options with the nonprofits and come up with a better game plan And like I guess you guys have met with Kiwanis this week and next week or whatever. Going forward, meet with all of them and see what their intentions are and what they can give in response with the city, stuff like that. That's the way I look at it.
Sure, and if I could jump in, we're having those conversations with Kiwanis now. We've had those conversations with the Art Center, that MOU that we're gonna bring back, right? The Art Center's MOU is just for the space. They're asking the city for the space, and they're funding the building themselves.
Correct.
So, I mean, we love that model. That model works for us. Just some of these other organizations may not have that funding or the ability to, or want to go get that funding.
Right, but my point is, it's, we've got, like Commissioner Stokes said, we've got hundreds of projects out there that need to be, done, if it's infrastructure, this, that, and the other. And we do want to support our nonprofits in the best way possible, but right now, we're just at the crossroads where we don't have a lot that we can give.
Right.
And we got to figure that out. That's all I'm getting at.
And we can, if you give direction, we can talk to the other two that we haven't engaged in that manner as far as what they can offer to funding, and look at some other sources rather than the city. And we can certainly bring that back.
Commissioner Langdon, or Vice Mayor, sorry.
Hi.
Oh,
I'm back.
Wait a minute, she's back.
I'm Janet Carrillo. Actually, we've already had those discussions with both Awaken and the Senior Center on what they can provide in assistance to us, either with building a new building or fundraising. So they have said, they've stated that they are more than willing to help fundraise, also fundraise for match dollars, as well as just fundraise for whatever grant. Also, they've mentioned that they are willing to apply for grants that may not be applicable for us as a city.
Okay, and everything helps. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yes,
Chop away those big numbers.
They are very cooperative in whatever they have to do to assist us. Those discussions have already been in place.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Yes, Mayor, I have some consensuses
Not yet.
when we're ready.
Okay. Commissioner Petro?
Yes, with Kiwanis, I think this was my impression, that we, as a city, don't pay anything. We just let them use the space, and I'm all for that. The more, the better. I mean, we have the city space, why not let them use? So let them use it at no cost to us. So I'm all for that. That was my...
It's pretty much the same thing with the senior center out at the Mullins Center.
And also, maybe, as the mayor said, for the option 5, if Awaken wants to do some repairs as they go, but not immediate, like crucial repairs, but something breaks, if they can offer a repair, that would be nice. But I don't know if we ask them or not. But yeah, I'm sticking with option 5.
All right. Anybody else? We're going to go to public comment, please. City Clerk.
Sheila Miller. Commissioners, please make it make sense. Why is there a conversation today to allocate taxpayer dollars to support the needs of not-for-profit organizations? While there is valuable work many not-for-profits perform, the use of taxpayer dollars to help fund and subsidize these entities raises several serious concerns regarding fiscal responsibility, transparency, and fairness. How many not-for-profits are being prioritized out of the hundreds that serve city residents? The city places itself at risk should taxpayer money intended for general public benefit be used to advance specific social or political agendas that not all taxpayers agree with. Have you asked the taxpayers if there is support for this effort? Do they know what it will cost them or what will be given up to make it happen? Using public funds to support one not-for-profit over another creates an uneven playing field and the perception of favoritism, and most obviously it would be a conflict of interest for several of the voting body. Residents should have the right to decide through their own voluntary donations which specific causes and organizations they wish to support. Taxpayer dollars need to be prioritized for existing government services, period. Diverting funds to not-for-profits, even for seemingly beneficial projects, only further strains the city's budget. In the last few months, I have listened to commissioners debate and vote against needed projects due to financial reasons. And even more exasperating is thinking of the referendum that did not pass, yet you are now considering directing support to not-for-profits over city needs. Make it make sense. Nonprofits. Commissioners, thank you for allowing staff and then the city manager to meet with Kiwanis regarding space to operate and help the community. The club originally asked for space across from the Art Center. However, we did not receive the $110,000 grant because we didn't have a land lease in place by the deadline. After speaking to city staff, we believe the Scout House and an area on its campus would work to continue our mission. If we could put a shed-like structure on the grounds, we could use the Scout House when the Scouts aren't using it for a community pop-up event to give donated items. We could house these items inside the shed. This would be helpful for those in need, including foster family schools, residents who suffer a disaster like a fire or hurricane impacts. Having an agreement with the city will help the club with the next round of grants in 2026. It will help us purchase a new sturdy unit. We have always served a public purpose for children and families in Northport, providing school supplies, clothing, food for the summer program, books, holiday gifts, and more. We would also like to see if the Scouts would like to do joint projects with our club. It's great community service for them too. If there's an opportunity in the future for a community nonprofit building, Kiwanis is very interested in working with the city for some space in that building. But until then, we would appreciate access to the Scout House and its campus. It would free up the space near the Art Center for the rowing group. Thank you for your consideration, the Kiwanis Club of Northport. In person, I have Jacqueline Sislo and Larry Grant.
Jacqueline Sislo, President of Kiwanis. Thank you for giving me the time to speak. Unfortunately, we were one of the finalists for the grant. We lost that last month as we didn't have any legal or any agreement with the city for the land. We're not asking you to build us a building. We're not asking you to find a spot, for us. The land's there. It's not being used for anything. We're still going to keep applying for grants. We want to do this. We're going to do this on our own. The most important thing, it would be nice if we could have a portable and have it where we wanted across from the Art Center, because that allows the public to come in. We can fix that up, get it, put in a few parking spots, whatever. That would help so we can get the people inside. They can shop for what it is that they need, just like they used to. We have the people to do that with. The shed would be great because it would give us extra storage. We can schedule with the Scouts to be able to use the inside when we need or want to, hopefully. Either one would be great, but this is something that we are trying to do on our own. We've been raising money. We've been applying for grants. I don't know, even with the portables, if there's some way the city could take, for nonprofits, that 5-year code could be removed for nonprofits anyways. That would make a big difference with the portable because, again, that would get people inside. That they'd be able to get what it is that they need. They wouldn't be settling for what we gave them. But again, storage is great at the Scout House. So either one of those, but we've been doing this all on our own. We've been homeless for 19 months. If you would just consider, giving us the use of the land, either piece, we'd really appreciate it. All right, thank you.
Commissioners, City Manager Larry Grant, Director, Awaken Outreach Center. Just wanted to say thank you so much for all the support that you've given over the last 5 years to Awaken Outreach and coming out and serving our community with us. You've allowed us to serve 5,000 to 6,000 families every month through at least a dozen different outreaches every month. And it's just, you're making such an impact in our community. We have just such a blessing, as in last Thursday and Friday, many of you came out to serve on our Thanksgiving outreach. We served 1,430 families in 2 days. That's over 75,000 pounds of food in 2 days that you blessed all the people in our city with. And that's just incredible. And it's just a blessing to have so many of you in support of us. And the main point, though, that I wanted to bring not my appreciation, but in the last week, over 50 separate people have come to me and were just shocked at the support that you gave our community, that you were there serving and distributing food. They couldn't believe it, from neighbors coming to get assistance, to volunteers, to pastors, to business owners, leaders of nonprofits, board members of nonprofits, from anywhere from Punta Gorda to Bradenton. And they were just amazed at how much you all do for our city, for all of our citizens. And just want to thank you for that and let you know how much of an impact that you are making. And also about the Mullen Center, it's not that they were unwilling to move there, it would just be terribly impractical and it would cause more problems for the city instead of, creating a better solution to the problem. But thank you for everything you do.
That's on there.
Okay, thank you. I'll be looking for consensuses.
You want me to give it a shot?
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. As much as I would love to house all of our nonprofits in one location, I just don't think that is a doable solution at this point in time. So I'd like to make 3 consensuses, if you would allow that. The first being to instruct city manager to work with staff and the Awaken Food Pantry to explore rehabbing the existing community educational center to repair deficiencies and to allow the Awaken Food Pantry and Outreach Center to continue at that location.
Can you read it one more time?
Sure. To instruct city manager to work with staff and the Awaken Food Pantry and Outreach Center to explore rehabbing the existing community educational center to repair deficiencies and to allow the Awaken Food Pantry and Outreach Center to continue at that location.
Get that, City Clerk? Yes. Okay. That's our first consensus. Commissioner DeVal.
I'm okay with that.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
All right. That consensus passes.
I'm on a roll.
Go for it.
So the second would be instruct city manager to work with the senior center to move its operations to the Mullen Center and to also explore that move with either having city staff to manage programming or the senior center continue managing programming.
Get that, City Clerk? Yes. Can you read that back, please?
To direct the city manager to work with the senior center to move its operations to the Mullen Center and to explore the move with either city staff managing the programming or the senior center to continue managing programming.
Thank you. Commissioner DeVal?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Stokes?
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay, let's go for
2 for 2.
3. Wow. Okay.
And that consensus has passed.
Instruct city manager to work with both the art and staff to work with both the Art Center and Kiwanis to find available land for them to locate their operations.
Get that, City Clerk?
Yes, to direct the city manager to work with the Art Center and the Kiwanis to find available land for them to locate their operations.
I think it's to continue conversations because both of them are underway, so.
Could you add to include lease agreements, land lease agreements to be
Sure.
worked on?
Sure. You want to give it a shot, City Clerk, or do you want me to try again?
To work with the Art Center and the Kiwanis to find available land for them to locate their operations and to draft a land agreement,
Land lease
land
options,
lease options.
something like that. All good? Okay. Commissioner DeValle?
Yes.
Commissioner Stokes?
I'm a yes on that.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
And Commissioner Petro? All right. Any more consensuses?
Yes, sir.
That's it. Thank you, Mr. Speaks. Great presentation. I know it was a lot of work and a lot of figuring, so very good. Thank you very much.
A lot of help from the other departments.
Oh, absolutely. It's a team effort. All right. Moving on to item B, 25-3069. Discussion and possible direction regarding an implementation plan for a special district to fund infrastructure for Activity Center 6 and 10. City Manager, this be your item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am going to turn it over to Deputy City Manager, Mr. Jason Yarborough, to lead us through a presentation and discussion. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity. The City Commission at the July 23rd budget workshop gave some consensus about us, staff, working on an implementation plan for a special district to provide infrastructure for the northeast part of the city, which is AKA Activity 6 and 10. And that's how we got here. And staff's done a lot of research. We've been working with the various departments that would need to put in infrastructure in the 6 and 10. We've worked with the city attorney's office and outside counsel, and now we're back to kind of have a conversation. So Activity 6 and 10, I'm going to start throwing out some statistics. Michael Merriman previously said there were about 1,500. So Activity 6 is actually 1,750 acres, and Activity Center 10 is actually 1,941 acres, but combined they're a little over 3,600 acres. More importantly, besides their size, which is phenomenal, they are strategically clustered around our third interchange. I'm not telling you something you don't know, but just for the record, the City Commission went through a long, multi-year process to rezone the city so as to rebalance our tax base and move away from over-reliance on residential tax base to more commercial industrial. As a result of that, 6 and 10 are kind of like the major cornerstone of rebalancing our tax base away from residential, which is and more to commercial industrial. Like, as I'm quoting statistics you probably already have memorized, but on average, currently, or prior to the rezoning, we were about 8% commercial/industrial. With the rezoning, we're about between 16 and 17%. We're still not at the ideal, which is like 25%, but I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to drive around Venice or the city of Sarasota. And even though we're larger in population, our non-residential development is woefully small compared to those other two cities, even though we're 4 times the size of Venice and about almost 50%, 40 to 50% larger than the city of Sarasota. So there are key things that need to happen from an infrastructure perspective in order to make Activity Center 6 and 10 fully and optimized, developed. First of all would be bringing water and sewer into the heart of those two districts. There are some things you can do, and Mr. Merriman alluded to that. You know, some of the larger parcels may be able to do their own water and sewer plants. It's not ideal. It is a nightmare from an operations perspective, but it's doable.
when you have hundreds of acres, you can definitely do that. But that's only a portion of activity 6 and 10. Centralized water and sewer is ideal. Also, the other thing is besides water and sewer and other infrastructure we'll talk a little bit more about, the interchange itself. The interchange is really relying upon, based off some input we got from the Metropolitan Planning Organization, Raintree and Yorkshire have to be extended. They need to be extended east into DeSoto County, and they need to be extended further into Charlotte County and link up with veterans so that you have a connectivity corridor. The other thing is we probably won't be required to widen those two roads as well as put in traffic signalization where they cross Price. So without those road network improvements, the interchange is slim chance it's going to happen. In fact, it won't happen because we've already been given our feedback about that. So you've got various infrastructures that need to be done and how you do that. So special district is a good, solid plan. And staff is recommending, and we'll go into more detail, but a two-phased approach. We get started out of the gate immediately as fast as we can with the creation of a dependent district that's created by the city. And then that dependent district would be absorbed by an independent district, which would be created by the state legislature. And we've already seen several of these. Welland Park's a perfect example of a state-created improvement district, and you see the good things that are coming out of the ground in Welland Park as a result of that district. This special district concept, it advances strategic pillar 3, which is economic development and growth management. Ooh, going backwards. So again, Activity Center 6 is predominantly commercial, industrial, and residential mix. It's about 62% non-residential, AKA commercial industrial, and about 34% with a new rezoning. High density residential. Activity Center 10 is about 87% non-residential, AKA commercial industrial, and about 10% high density residential. But why does it matter? You know, I talked earlier about tax base and moving away from residential. It's not really financially sustainable. That's one of the reasons why the commission at the time made a decision to rezone large swaths of land in the city, is to move away from residential, over-reliance on residential tax base, because it's not really financially sustainable. It's not, it's not. And then the other thing is, about 90% of our eligible workforce leaves the city limits to go find jobs. For a city of 100,000, that's weird. It's not normal. It's unusual. You don't want to do that. That's not how you want to be as a community. I mean, you've got people spending hours and hours in their car. They're not being with their families. They're not volunteering in your community. It's just an unusual way to, and displacement of focus. So we really need to bring the jobs back to Northport, and Activity 6 and 10 with their full optimized development is the way to do that. One of the ways to do that. Also, we have a ton of new businesses starting, as Mr. Merriman's stats showed, but and Commissioner Vice Mayor Langdon hit on it, is that we don't have vertical buildings for them to grow from their home-based business into a storefront or to a structure that's separated from their residence. And so that's one of the things that 6 and 10 can do with their development, is to bring all kinds of various sized commercial and industrial space that people can grow into. Once they kick off and start off at home, they need a place to grow to. So we need small, medium, and large commercial and industrial spots for them, structures for them to grow into their business and take it to the next level. So again, what's needed to activate 6 and 10? Well, the interchange is important, but water and sewer is probably the most important, or the top. But, because you could still get some development in 6 and 10 with water and sewer brought deep into the heart of those two activity centers. But if you want to optimize and maximize the development of 6 and 10, you're going to need the interchange. And the interchange, like I said before, you're going to need to extend Yorkshire and Raintree, and you're probably going to need to widen them and then add traffic signalization to where they cross Price. So the other thing, like I said before, is water and sewer, but you're also going to probably need some more robust stormwater if you want to take it off the backs of the development community. You could do a more robust stormwater master plan and implementation like you would see in Welland Park. You're going to need multimodal elements, improvements, and the special districts will be able to pay for all this. The other thing is and we're hearing a lot of feedback is for 6 and 10, they want to know about the electricity. They want to know about the fiber. They want, like if you were to put in a data center needs fast connection to the internet. So fiber is the way to do that. Also, the other thing is like some of the manufacturing data centers requires electricity. So say a data center needs 1 million megawatts of power. That's $25 million bill from Florida Power and Light. So these are the various infrastructures. The other thing is Activity 6 and 10 is broken up into a lot of bitty tiny parcels. There are some large parcels, and we have some investors and developers who are gobbling them up and aggregating them. But another thing that the district could possibly do is aggregate by buying properties, redeveloping, replatting, and then partnering with developers to make things happen. Because the city, I'm not saying the city should, but it's something to consider. The city may be better able to aggregate property than individual investors, or run simultaneously with investors at the same time. So we're going to need to partner with DeSoto County and Charlotte County on the beefing up the connectivity to make the interchange happen. And again, the special district concept is probably the best way that we have, the best tool in the toolbox that we have to do that. So what is a special district? It's a limited purpose local government entity. It's created to finance, construct. It can also maintain and operate assets. It has the ability to levy ad valorem taxes, assessments, non-ad valorem, and service charges. And it links, if from an assessment perspective, it links back to the property that gets the benefit. So one of the messages we want to stay on target with is the assessment route allows the people who are going to get the most benefit from the infrastructure in 6 and 10 and the interchange, which is the property owners in 6 and 10. So the people who are going to get the most benefit should pick up the bill for the infrastructure, and that's what an assessment-based system using special districts would do. A dependent district, like I said, could be created by the city relatively fast. The one caveat we have with that, you can create a special district relatively fast, but getting it on the tax rolls requires you to do like a uniform method of collection resolution, and you would have to do that by January of the year you're going to put it on the tax roll. That's one of the reasons why, when we get further in the timeline, why we wouldn't necessarily be able to do it in 2026. One of the caveats for a dependent district is because it's created by the city, it's going to have the same limitations on borrowing as the city's charter has. But it doesn't prevent the district, a dependent district, doesn't prevent the city from using that revenue and then going through court validation processes to explore certificates of participation and traditional bank loans and those kind of things. The financial reporting, it's the same thing as you've already seen with your fire district, your road and drainage district, and your solid waste district. It's audited with the rest of the city. The reporting is incorporated. And then an independent district, the state legislature
would need to create by special act an independent district. And it has its own board, and but one of the benefits is the independent district would not have the limitation that our charter has on the ability to borrow. Because it's fully created by the state, that limitation isn't necessarily in there. But the finances would be audited separately, and it would be a completely independent entity. However, there are ways that the city could still be integrated into an independent district. One of the ways would be for an independent district, the city commission can't appoint the entire board, but you could appoint the majority of the board. City commission can't remove any of the board members, but if you made 4 of your own people as part of the 4 of 5, I'm not saying you should do that, but you get the point of how that would work. And then the third is that you wouldn't be able to remove anybody, but you also wouldn't be able to approve their budget. But again, if you appointed 4 of your own onto the board, you still have control. The other way to do that also is, instead of trying to recreate an administrative arm for an independent agency, you could also have that independent agency or independent district contract for the city for like administrative management and operations. So you don't want to make your money go far. You want your money to do capital projects. You don't want your money being spent on a lot of administrative red tape and reinvent the wheel. We've already got a really good management, and we've already got a great administration. You would want to, I would recommend that you consider, if you go this route, you would, the district, independent district would contract with the city for this. And a lot of these I've already hit on, so I'm not going to re-communicate those. We talked about that. You know, from a process perspective, how this would work. It's all driven by the Florida statute. We would work on if the city commission decided to go in this direction, on the dependent district, we would propose working on an ordinance this 2026, and then it would be, y'all would pass that, and then you would do a resolution of a uniform method of collection, which would allow you to put your assessment on the tax bill, and then you would start collecting monies in 2027. At the same time, in 2026, because of the two-phased approach, you would start working with your legislative delegation on drafting a special bill. That special bill will then be heard by the legislative delegation and those delegation hearings are usually at the end of the year, so that would be done towards the end of fall of 2026. And then the entire legislation action or during legislative session would happen during 2027, and then you would start seeing money flowing in from the independent district in 2028. It could possibly happen in 2027. It all depends on the calendar for that legislative session. So you may be wondering, why would staff recommend a two-phase approach? Well, the primary reason is to get straight out of the gate and get the money flowing in as soon as possible, because before you start building it, you got to engineer it, you got to plan it, you got to make sure it's all linked up, you got to do a methodology, and the methodology for the dependent district would be almost a cut and paste for the independent district. And then the idea being is that in phase 2, the independent district would absorb the dependent district. And then you would have not the same limitations that the dependent district has based off of our charter. Now, if something unfortunate happened, like the independent district didn't get approved, you would still have money flowing in, you could still do projects. So it's kind of a safety in a way, another way of looking at it, as we looked at it. And I'm not going to read all this good stuff, and it was also in the memo we talked about previously. Oh, that was attached. I'm not going to go a little bit more into the engagement strategy or communication. It's important. The 3 main things we want to communicate in engagement: first of all, This is about bringing jobs back into Northport. Second of all, this is about moving away from an over-reliance on residential tax base. And third of all, it is about making sure that growth pays for growth. In other words, the taxpayer out in Welland Park or the taxpayer in the legacy part of town, they're not going to be on the hook for this. It's going to be for the property owners that are in activities 6 and 10 that are going to pay the bill for the infrastructure that's coming in, along with grants and any state appropriations we're able to get. But that's the important thing to a lot of people get, real sensitive. They like the idea of improvements, but they don't want to pay for it. And in this case, you have, and we've had contact with property owners in 6 and 10, and they're real excited about the idea of infrastructure coming out there and making their property more valuable. And the people who benefit the most are the ones that really should pick up the bill. And this method or this plan would do that. We will need a lot of coordination. From the road network perspective, for the interchange, we'll need to work with DeSoto County, we'll need to work with Charlotte County. But for the legislative coordination, to making sure the independent district gets approved, we're going to have to work with all 3 counties and our delegates to make sure that happens, if this is the direction the city commission decides to go. Again, I'm not going to go back over it. This is just a kind of a regurgitation of what's already been recommended. And then what are the next steps? Staff has a whole list of 5 consensuses we'd be seeking. Consensus to direct the city manager and city attorney to draft ordinance establishing the dependent district in 2026. And then another consensus for the city commission to consider directing the city manager and city attorney for a resolution for the uniform method of collection, which would put it on the tax bill for fiscal year 2027. And a third consensus staff will be seeking direction on is for the city manager, direct the city manager to develop and advance a legislative concept, coordinating with the Florida legislative delegation and the city's contracted lobbyists for the 2027 regular legislative session to create an independent special district with merging language. In other words, absorbing the dependent district into the independent district. And then fourth, staff will be seeking consensus to direct the city manager to develop the assessment methodology for the proposed districts. And then finally, staff will be seeking consensus to direct the city manager to seek assistance from Sarasota, DeSoto, and Charlotte County on the legislative action to create the independent district, as well as whatever's needed for the I-75 interchange potentially. And with that, thank you for your time, and I'm here to answer any questions to the best of my ability.
Happy to lead off on this one. Great presentation. If there was ever a way, or if we ever found ourselves in a position to set the course for this city for the next 50 years, it is this right here. If we're going to have any chance of maintaining property tax rates anywhere near where they are now and not experiencing double and triple the property taxes, this is the project that's got to get done. Leaving it to the property owners who are out there to cobble together a special district. It's doable. It's certainly been done before. God knows how long it would take, certainly beyond my years on the dais and probably my years on this earth. So I would say that controlling your own destiny is the direction to go here. If there was an example of how to do it so growth pays for growth, this is how to do it, because it will assess the property owners within that geographic area, and as it should. Look at what it's done. You cited Welland Park, perfect example. Okay, there they are a true independent district, yet they are Not controlled by the developer, but they control, their employees control the board until such time as it's mostly built out and can turn over and be run by, you know, a board of property owners. If we were to leave this in the hands of speculators and developers, I don't think that's as wise as doing this as a city. And I like the idea that in the early stages, we set up the structure, we start to generate tax revenues for it. We're bound by the same financial constrictions as a city that we are presently. And at a point down the road, a year or so out, when we go to the legislature, you know, if in fact this becomes an independent district, then it'll have its own board, it'll be regulated. There's a whole lot of reporting processes that go on. But this is the way to get this done. Short of this, there is no other way. The city taxpayers in Northport, in their wildest dreams, we could not support the cost of developing these two activity centers on our backs. There's no way on God's green earth. It's got to be done by the developers and property owners who own the land in Activity Center 6 and 10. That's the way to get it done. I'm totally supportive of this, and every one of the consensuses staff's looking for, so I yield.
Vice Mayor.
For the first time in 5 years, I am optimistic that we're really going to be able to put this city financially on a road to a much brighter future. And I really want to compliment you, Deputy City Manager, and everyone who worked on this proposal. This is, and I won't repeat Commissioner Stokes, but this is the work we have to get done, and sooner rather than later. You know, for some time now, I've sat on the Metropolitan Planning Organization for about 4 years. And in the time I've been involved, we've been playing chicken and egg with the Florida Department of Transportation regarding what comes first, the interchange or infrastructure. And the reality is FDOT is not going to move on building that interchange until this city starts improving the infrastructure. So there is no choice here. This is something we have to do. The special district is, as far as I can tell, not only the best way to go, but the only way to go without having the burden of the costs of infrastructure falling on the city citywide, as Commissioner Stokes mentioned. So I am delighted with this. Whatever you need, you know, let's get it done. We've got to get this done sooner rather than later. And thank you so much for the work and for the presentation. It's terrific.
Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner DeValle.
Thank you, Mayor. Included in your included in your presentation, there was a memorandum.
Yes, sir.
There's a paragraph that says, in contrast, an independent district created by special act of the state is not bound by the city's debt limitations, allowing access to more traditional capital financing methods, including revenue bonds. And my question is, those revenue bonds, would they be paid for by the special district, the independent district, or by all of the taxpayers of the city?
No, it would be on the backs of the independent district, which would be localized to Activity 6 and 10 property owners. It wouldn't be citywide.
And if I could interject, like in Welland Park, literally there are master debt obligations and then individual areas and zones, so that those activity centers may well break down and they're separate finances, but always tied to the property owners within that district, so it doesn't fall on the backs of the rest of the city.
Correct, yes, sir.
All right, thank you. I had to ask.
No, yeah, it's good. Excellent question, and that's the message we want to get out. This is not on the backs of all the taxpayers of Northport. This is localized to the property owners in activities 6 and 10, who are going to get the most benefit from the
Also,
infrastructure.
could I ask, because now we're talking DeSoto County,
Right,
Charlotte County,
right.
what's our best bet as to, are we gonna work together, or is it gonna be a knocking of heads?
No.
We want this, and we won't give in until
No.
we get.
We have an excellent working relationship with Charlotte County. I mean, we're in Sarasota, but we have more in common from some perspectives with Charlotte County than we do with Sarasota. And we have an excellent working relationship. City Manager Fletcher has an awesome relationship with County Manager Hector Flores. So I don't think it's going to be knocked down. I think both counties want the interchange to happen. They're both going to have to pony up money to increase their portion, because we can't take money outside and let it go out. We can't spend on things in their county. We can only stay inside our sandbox. So they're going to have to pony up money, but we have an excellent relationship. I mean, it's taken 94 but you've got the Cranberry Hillsborough improvements. That was a 50-50 cost share between us and the Charlotte County. We play well together, and I don't foresee it being a posturing or, my way or the highway. That's just not how we play ball with those two counties.
Thank you.
Commissioner Petro.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is, do we have to do both independent district?
No, you don't. It was just staff's way to get the money flowing as fast as possible. Otherwise, you're going to probably have to wait till 2028 if you just do the independent. Or if you don't do the independent, the other thing is, it's a fail-safe. In case something wacky happens up in Tallahassee, you can control the dependent district in its formation. You're at the whims of others with the independent. So it allows you to still be able to move forward. Now, you would still, like I said before, I mean, you would have to explore going through a court validation process for like certificate of participation or other financing mechanisms if you just use the dependent, but it is doable. The other thing I forgot to mention was districts can levy millage. I'm not saying you should do that, but they can. With a dependent, your millage is mixed with the city's millage for a total cap of 10 mills, whereas an independent district has its own millage independent of your city cap of 10. It would be on top of your cap of 10.
That's a good point. I do think we putting the cart before the horse, and the reason is, I'll be very clear. We keep referencing Welland Park as an example, but the city did not have to create independent district in the Welland Park. Am I correct?
The city had to approve it, yes. Yeah, I mean, we were, if I remember right, I mean, this happened 20 plus years ago, but the city was part of it, of the approval process, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, at the end of the day, it required a special legislative act up in Tallahassee, but, yeah.
Yes, so there are, especially in District Activity Center 6, there are a number of homes are built and people live there. Are they going to be, they probably...
I think that would be a decision that you are going to have to decide. Maybe you want to carve out, because you already carved out a part of 6 to remain single-family residential. Maybe you want to carve them out, but they won't be getting sewer either, and they won't be getting centralized water. And that you may want to we may want to have a conversation with that neighbor. Maybe they don't want water. Maybe they don't want sewer, and maybe you carve them out and you don't make them part of that. These are nuances that will have to be worked out.
I just think that the current residents that live there would be paying for the services that might not be of interest to them. And in fact, they already paid impact fee for that. And a lot of them will be paying for something that they might not even enjoy or use, because this is not gonna happen in a year or two. But if they sell it or they move out, so my question is, how do we go about those people? We have to respect.
Easy. You can create, you can make a decision that you're going to carve them out, and if somebody wants to buy in at a later date, they pay their water and sewer capital connection charges, plus any other additional charges that y'all deem necessary in order to make the district whole, and have them buy in at a later date. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to skin this cat. It doesn't have to be one way or this way or the highway. There's a lot of different ways to handle it. You probably want to carve out that, remember that one neighborhood where you left the zoning residential? You probably don't want to include them because they're, anyway, they're not zoned for that. They're zoned residential, and you may want to, but before you do that, you may want to have a conversation with the property owners in there to see if they're interested.
I'm just trying to figure out, I guess we're not showing the entire picture, and the real question is, why are we rushing this in to do that? And at the earlier presentations, we were told that there's 240 acres already owned by one.
400.
400?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's even better. It's 400 acres that is owned by one developer.
Correct.
So they might want to create something on their own, or they will have to be compelled to do something on their own, because I'm sure they have something in plans to do that, because 400 acres is a lot.
Absolutely.
And it's like we are going and subsidizing again some developers and putting the tax burden on someone else. But the real question is, what is the rush to do that?
Well, you can choose. Maybe you don't want to bring water and sewer out to activity 6 and 10. You think somebody's going to do it on their own. You're still going to have to make road network improvements if you're going to have the third interchange happen. And it's got to be paid for somehow. So maybe you don't want to bring water and sewer out there. Maybe you want the district just to make road network improvements that are going to make the interchange happen. And you're going to rely on free market forces to bring water and sewer. It's an interesting way of doing it, but you could do it that way if that's the way you want to do it.
Compels me to think maybe we doing this as a city to have property owners to unload whatever they own, and someone else will be buying them and do a complete revamping of the area. I'm not sure. But my real question is, do we have a master plans for activity centers 6 and 10?
No, we don't have a master plan for 6 and 10. I mean, I'll ask Miss Elena Ray, Development Services Director, come down, but we don't have a master plan. Because at the end of the day, whatever you design, market forces and property owners have their own ideas.
Good afternoon. So a master plan really is intended to demonstrate what could go in an area. We worked very hard and very long to establish Activity Center 10 and modify Activity Center 6 through the comprehensive plan and ULDC process. We talked at length about doing a master plan for Activity Center 6, Activity Center 10, or one master plan for all of it. At the end of the day, we know where Yorkshire's going. It's already there. It just needs to be widened. We know where Raintree is. We know where Hillsborough and Veterans are. We know the interchanges are going in. At the end of the day, it is a market issue as to exactly where in Activity Center 6 and 10 certain uses happen. We already have some larger parcels in certain areas of Activity Center 10 that would be conducive to development now if they had water, sewer, and electricity. Activity Center 6 a third of that is already taken by one owner who has his own vision for what he wants to do. In that instance, a master plan would be redundant. That person already owns all of that land. They have their plan that they want to do. In Activity Center 10, really, we just need the infrastructure, and the development will come. We already know what uses are allowed. We've left it very open as to what uses are allowed from an industrial and commercial perspective, because we essentially need everything. We don't need just one type of use or two types of uses. We need everything out there. So a master plan would really, at the most, give you a bubble that says all of these uses can go in these areas. But we already have that with the comprehensive plan.
Since that developer owns majority of that Activity Center 6, doesn't he have any plans, or would he has to have some plans?
So what he would have to do at this point to develop out there is he would have to put in his own self-contained sewer and water system.
Or run lines back to.
Or run lines back, which is extremely expensive. And when you're running lines back, all of those other properties in between, now they have access to that. So there is a benefit to a special district putting it in, and then those properties, as they develop, they're still going to be paying impact fees to hook up and for improvements. So the advantage to doing the special district is to get the funding to do that in advance, because that spurs the development faster. If a developer is going into a parcel on 41 that already has access to water and sewer, or to the interchanges at Toledo Blade and Sumter where they already have water and sewer, or to an interchange or property in Charlotte County that already has water and sewer, they're going to be much more apt to go to one of those places than they are to AC 6 or 10, because it's going to cost them a whole lot more. But if there's a district in place, that funding is already coming in, the district is able to put in some of those utilities. It will spur that development to occur much faster, so that they will develop there rather than going to Charlotte County or Lee County. And then the district or the city is still going to be collecting the impact fees when those individual properties hook up.
I do understand the independent district directly benefits the city, which is a good thing. Let them have whatever they want to do. Let the market dictate. As a city, to interject and do something and stimulate that area, and paying just dependent district, I'm not really in favor of that. So, and there could be a couple reasons why we are rushing to do this, to have property owners to unload whatever the inventory they have, so that could be consolidated with certain specific developers, or doing a favor for that specific developer, or for that matter, any developer.
Staff has had no conversations about doing a favor for the developers. That's not happened. We have received, when we go and market, as part of economic development, we market, do you have water and sewer there? Do you have power there? Do you have fiber there? And our answer is no, and then tumbleweeds come across, and we lose contact with those people. So we have had no conversations about doing favors for the development community.
So that brings me to this question, and I was asking that question earlier about utilities, and that could be, I don't know if you can answer those questions for the water main. We do have water main going along the Price to an Activity Center 6, correct? It just needs to be extended and
Yeah, I mean, it kind of terminates will terminate where the charter school, but I don't know if it's enough size depends on what came in 6 and 10. We also have 100 acres of utility land up in that area that was envisioned for another utility site. That may be an option as well. Yeah, so that may be an option as well.
how much expensive, or what are we talking about in terms of amount of?
I don't know. It depends. You tell me what's going to come in 6 and 10, and I'll tell you how much it's going to cost. Probably about 60 million if I had to go off the top of my head.
Just the water?
Water and sewer, and some road stuff. Just first blush, don't hold me to it. That's just first blush. But if you can tell me what's going to come in 6 and 10, I can give you a whole lot better number. We don't know.
We don't know, yes. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Stokes.
Yeah, I don't know where the idea that this is like all of a sudden some bum rush deal. I don't know. I kind of think that this planning's been in the works for years and years and years. Well before the ULDC and comp plan work and all the efforts that have gone into aligning the city in a position to be able to take advantage of these two activity centers. You know, why the rush? Well, I don't want my taxes to go up anymore. I don't want to have to keep paying, and more people keep moving here residentially, and the cost of providing all those services continue to fall on the backs of us residential taxpayers. So delay it 5 years, delay it 10 years, we're just going to keep paying more and more and more and more and more, and there's no denying it. It's going to happen. The answer is to allow and to promote and to nurture the development in these two activity centers. The sooner the better. Should have happened a long time ago, but it didn't. Special districts are the way to go here. And dependent districts, okay, it'd be nice to think that a dependent district could do all the things that an independent district could do. Not so. Okay, not so, especially in the area of financing its infrastructure. There's only so much you can do. As a dependent district, you are bound by the city's borrowing limits and everything else, okay? So it makes it that much more difficult. An independent district can do what it needs to do. It needs to financially be sound. It needs to be able to service its debt that it incurs, but it falls on the backs of the property owners within those two activity centers within that special district. And as Deputy City Manager said, we can do a lot of things to try to accommodate some of those residential property owners in and around those activity centers. But the reality is those two activity centers are the salvation for this city. Again, if we, future commissions, choose not to do this, that's fine. Plan on doubling your property taxes because you can't sustain the population growth with tax revenues from residential taxpayers. It is not sustainable. We are heading into the hole between all our CIP projects and all the costs of day-to-day operations. This city cannot survive on 9, 10, 11, 12% commercial tax base. It can't. So is there a rush? Damn right there is. Is it something we all of a sudden woke up yesterday and decided to do? No way, Commissioner. This has been in the plans for a long time, carefully thought out, carefully planned out. It takes the ability to see the big picture and understand what the unintended consequences are of delaying this process, because there is no other solution. To sit around and wait for a bunch of developers to figure out what and how they're going to fund their infrastructure is a dream. You'll be dead. I'll definitely be dead, but you'll probably be dead. The city needs to take this bull by the horns and get these two areas developed, because otherwise I can tell you, FDOT, they'll find plenty other places to spend money, and it'll be goodbye Yorkshire Exchange, and without that, we're in deep doo-doo. So I'm telling you, if somebody can think this through in a better way, fine. The only people that aren't grasping this are the people who haven't spent the time and thought this thing through, because Give me alternatives. I'm all wide open to all the alternatives. Nobody has any alternatives except let's not do anything. And look at how well that worked for us on Price Boulevard. So, I yield.
Commissioner Duval.
Thank you, Mayor. Deputy Manager, I'm going to use an example here. In Syracuse, New York, right now, they're building a chip plant. It's going to employ 5,000 workers.
Yes, sir.
That's what we need, okay? We have restaurants coming in, you know, we're working on workforce housing. The SMH, you know, that's the biggest thing we've got economically coming in.
For now, yes, sir.
You know, for jobs. Do we have any companies, you know, industries that are interested in saying, if we get this interchange, we get this infrastructure, we will be there? Do we have any that are currently,
Yes,
that we can name?
I can't name,
It's
non-disclosed, I can't.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I see this as, you know, it's that circle, you know, we want the interchange, the state wants us to have the water and sewer.
The state doesn't care about the utilities, they care about the road network and the connectivity. But you would have an interchange with nothing really happening around it because there would be no water and sewer there to make it happen. So it's kind of they kind of come together. Yeah, the state doesn't care about water and sewer, the state cares about the road network. And
Yeah, I was just trying to look at it from the idea of, if we had, you know, the names of some industries that were willing to come in, you know, then we can go to the state and say, hey, get this infrastructure for the interchanges built a little faster.
The state
mean
has
revenue for the state besides.
I apologize, Commissioner. The state's told us. Yeah, we've got software companies and data.
Technology, research and development, and yeah, high-tech research and development are the big ones. Very high-paying jobs.
That's what I want to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But the state or the Metropolitan Planning Organization has already given us our marching orders. They've told us specifically what roads need to be extended, and there's a high likelihood they also need to be widened, as well as traffic signalization. So we've been given our marching orders what it's going to take in order to land the interchange.
Good. City Clerk, any public comment?
There is
None. Okay. I'll be looking for some consensuses.
I'll kick us off. I'd like a consensus to direct the city manager and the city attorney to draft an ordinance establishing a city-created, dependent special district for commission consideration in early 2026.
You got that, City Clerk?
Yes.
Commissioner DeBall.
Okay, from the information that was given, it was going to be CDD first and then the independent special district. Sorry. The way you worded it, it sounded like you were asking for the independent special district first.
No, I said create a city-created dependent special district.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
My mistake.
Still need a yea or nay, sir.
Hey,
Yes, no?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Commissioner
Atta
Stokes?
boy.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
I'm in.
Mr. Petro? He's a no. Second Are you in more consensuses?
I'll go again.
You have, I don't have them in front of me, that's why if you can.
They're right there on your sheet.
then maybe
Put your
I'll put my
glasses on,
glasses
Commissioner.
Nice
All
little
I'll
shorties.
do, I'll do consensus too. Direct the city manager and city attorney to prepare a resolution of intent to use the uniform method of collection under Florida statute 197.3632 for implementation beginning in fiscal year '27 for commission consideration.
Do you have that, City Clerk?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Duval?
Yes.
Commissioner Stokes?
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
Question, is that for independent?
That's option number 2 on your sheet.
Yes, I'm reading it. But to prepare a resolution of intent to use the uniform method of collection under floor 197, I have not read the statute.
That would need to be done regardless of whether it's dependent
Right.
or independent district.
Yes.
All right.
I'll do a consensus number 3.
Okay.
To direct city manager to develop and advance a legislative concept coordinating with the Florida legislative delegation and the city's contracted lobbyist for the 2027 regular session to create a state-authorized independent special district with merging language. And I think that's specific to the independent district, assuming the dependent
Correct.
district.
I'm going to start off with you, Commissioner Petro.
Yes.
Good, because that's what you wanted. Thank you.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
All right. Any more?
Yep. Authorize city manager to develop the assessment methodology for the proposed districts. That needs to be done.
Got that, City Clerk?
Yes.
Commissioner Duval?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
All right.
I'll do the last one.
Okay.
Authorize city manager to seek assistance from Sarasota, DeSoto, and Charlotte counties on legislative action to create the independent special district, including support related to the future Yorkshire Raintree interchange on State 75.
Good with that one, too? Okay. Commissioner Duval?
Yes.
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 All right.
Commissioners, thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much, sir. It was a great presentation.
Thank you.
City Clerk, do we have any general public comment? We're out of here at 1:33.
Right.
All right.